of claws could be heard on the battlefield. The man said that he only needed to win once. The enraged monster rushed towards him. Having managed to put his hand up, he blocked the monster's blow. Looking at the monster attacking again, the man thought about one time again. The monster's paw was rapidly heading towards his face. Suddenly, due to an unimaginably powerful blow, the man flew to the side. A powerful explosion was heard on the battlefield. The defeated man left a mark in the block of stone into which he flew. Smirking, he pointed to the monster's sword, which he managed to stick into his body. After the man grabbed the sword with both hands, the monster let out a debilitating roar. Having cut the undead into 2 parts, he froze in one position. While in his thoughts, he said that there was no one left in this hellish world. After he leaned on the sword, the system notified him about the destruction of the white dog, whose level was equal to the 4th. Continuing to think, he noted that there was no one left except him and the constantly appearing monster. In despair, the man again said that only once was enough for him. The system notified him that he had received experience points, informing him that he had completed the required experience. Seeing something, the man fell into a stupor. The system notified him of the level increase. An error occurred in the panel that appeared, causing the hero to become enraged. The plot introduces us to the sword warrior, Ryu Hanbin, whose level was equal to the 4th. "Please, anything," said Ryu, who held his head. The system informed him that in order to move to another area he must reach the 5th level. Hearing this, the man fell into incredible rage. His scream could be heard throughout the area. Steam was emanating from the angry dragon's mouth. The main character's grueling training lasted for exactly a year, after which, the monster began to spew out multiple volleys of fire from its mouth. This is the 2nd year of Ryu's endless attempts. Beside himself with rage, the main character rushed towards the monster. Despite Ryu's colossal efforts, this was the 3rd year of his countless attempts. Pushing off from the stone hill, he headed towards the dragon soaring in the air. The system notified the protagonist that the probability of survival in Latna with his abilities was less than 5%. It had been Ryu's 5th year in the hellish lands. The distraught protagonist pierced the monster's chest. After defeating the monster, he quickly began to fall down. The system asked if Ryu wanted to commit suicide. Leaning on the stone wall, the main character made another mark. Ryu's survival in those areas was close to 7 years. Having broken the chalk, the main character noted that he had been in this world for 10 years. Beside himself with rage, Ryu swung his fist. In his thoughts, he said that he had already stopped calculating dates. With unimaginable power, the main character struck the hot magma. Ryu stated that he was in complete isolation. With lightning speed, the main character rushed towards the huge dragon. With his sword behind his back, Ryu prepared to attack. Continuing to think, the main character noted that he also became stronger. Hovering in the air before performing the strike, Ryu wondered what his level would really be. After which, with just a swing of his sword, he struck the enraged monster. The daytime sky of the city was gradually shrouded in white clouds. Someone's conversations could be heard in one of the nooks and crannies. Barely breathing, the bloodied stranger reported a monster from the lousy 20th dimension. Looking at the distraught girl who raised her head, he began to ask for forgiveness from the goddess. The guy standing next to her asked her to stop. The indignant girl noted that she had not killed anyone for a very long time. The guy said that if she was caught by a resident of Latna, she would not end up in trouble. Looking at the girl's bloody blade, the guy noted that it is never too late to kill a resident of Latna, adding that even if all plans have already been completed. Getting up from the barely alive man, she asked if she just needed to find him. Raising her hand in front of her, the girl spoke about someone like her who came into this dimension. Having used a fire spell, the girl spoke about the Earthling. After they left, the back streets of the city began to burn. Gradually, evening came in the districts of Latna, which is why the sun slowly went into sunset. The system revealed that this place was an imitation of Latna, adding that the main character was chosen as a suitable player. The system stated that his goal was to survive in this world and level up. The enraged monster grabbed Ryu's hand. The frightened main character could not understand what it was. Trying to fight off the rabid monster, he wondered what situation he was in. After multiple attempts, Ryu was finally able to throw the rabid monster away from him. Taking the stone in his hands, the frightened protagonist assumed that it was a dog. Horrified, he assumed that it was a monster. Suddenly, an angry dog rushed towards Ryu. While in his thoughts, the main character noted that he had no time either to assess the situation or to deny reality. At the last moment, Ryu managed to insert a stone he found on the ground into the monster's mouth. Continuing to think, he said that he knew one thing for sure. Looking at the downed dog, Ryu assumed that he had died. His face was filled with doubt and fear. The main character stated that if he did not kill, then he is dead. Blood flowed from the mouth of the rabid monster. Standing at the cliff, Ryu tried in every possible way to tell the monster not to come. Holding a stone in his hands, he wondered why the dog was growling. Suddenly, a panel appeared near his face with instructions on it, which greatly surprised him. The panel depicted an angry monster that was associated with the tribe, a man-apes, level 1. The system notified him that he had combat strength equal to that of an adult unarmed man. Seeing the combat strength item, the main character fell into a stupor. The system noted that he could gain experience in various battles with powerful monsters and try to level up. Looking at all this, Ryu assumed that it was some kind of joke. A second before the man-up's jaw sank into his neck, the main character wondered if he was in a virtual reality game. In his thoughts, he could not understand where the failure occurred. Opening his sleepy eyes, Ryu froze in one position. Getting out of bed, the main character yawned protractedly. Ryu told us that every day he gets up at 12 o'clock and his whole body hurts. After which, he asked if we thought he was lazy. Heading to the computer, Ryu wondered how he could kill time today. The main character said that he came out of the army 3 months ago, which is why he can afford to relax a little. On the military uniform hanging nearby, the initials of the main character were indicated. Ryu noted that in the army it seemed to him that as soon as he returned back, he could do anything, adding that after 3 months he realized that he did not like anything. Taking hold of the computer mouse, he began to actively do something. It seemed to Ryu that nothing had changed at all during his 2 years of military service. Sitting at the computer chair, the main character noted that he was also tired of this. In his thoughts, he spoke about this reality. Taking hold of a packet of chips, he noted that this was real reality. Looking at the monitor, Ryu slowly devoured the chips. Suddenly, something began to suck him inside. Because of this, the main character began to scream loudly. At his workplace, Ryu, only traces of magical dust remained. The computer mouse hung over the table. A mysterious voice announced that all eligible players had been accepted. Trying to open his eyes, the main character assumed that he had died. The mysterious voice was surprised by such a small number of players, noting that the candidates had an income of more than 7 billion. Around the shocked Ryu there were many similar people, whose faces were enveloped in light. The main character assumed that it was God, adding that he could not see anything. The mysterious voice reported 7 billion, which is why there were so many votes. The stranger said that everything was clear to him now. Looking at the shining ball, Ryu could not understand what that sound was. The stranger asked to move the instructions. A mysterious voice asked if this could really be done, noting that it was somehow too artificial. Shrouded in bright light, Ryu assumed that it was not God, but a man. The stranger stated that this was good for motivation and adaptation, adding that this was already confirmed by existing players. After which, a mysterious voice asked if he needed to start landing instructions. Suddenly, the main character's body began to rapidly fall into an unknown place. Looking at the frightened Ryu who continued to fall, a mysterious voice reported an error. Hearing this, the main character fell into a stupor. A mysterious voice stated that there had been a mistake in management. The stranger noted that one person is still normal. Ryu's face was shrouded in incredible fear. A mysterious voice said that player number 398 needed to start transferring the dimension. The system notified Ryu that he had been selected as a player. Beating the barely breathing monster with a stone, the main character asked him to die. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu revealed that this place was an imitation of Latna. Blood was visible on the stone with which Ryu beat the monster. Continuing to think, the main character said that this was his reality. Inflicting countless blows on the man-ups, the system reported the destruction of the monster and Ryu receiving 13 experience points. The main character could not believe that all this was really happening. Holding a bloody stone in his hands, Ryu insulted the barely alive monster in every possible way. The main character asked if he was saying that this is reality. Having finished all this, Ryu's face became covered with unimaginable anger. The main character wondered where his parents were. Blood flowed from the mouth of the killed man-ups. In his thoughts, Ryu could not understand what was happening. Hitting the ground with his fist, the main character began to scream in rage. His unbearably powerful blows continued and continued. Desperate, Ryu noted that he had just returned from the army 3 months ago. The frustrated protagonist talked about how he hasn't had a girlfriend yet, wondering why him. He believed that there were many who were hiding from the army, after which, the system notified Ryu that the probability of survival in Latna with his abilities was less than 5%. Hearing this, the main character fell into genuine rage. Looking at the panel, Ryu wondered if they had any remnants of conscience. The system asked if the main character wanted to commit suicide. Sitting in front of the panel where this item was indicated, the main character stated that an ordinary person is suddenly kidnapped and finds himself in another world. He noted that this happened out of the blue, adding that he was told to kill monsters and increase his level. Lost in thought, Ryu pulled his hand towards the panel where suicide was indicated. The agitated protagonist wondered if they were kidding. He wondered if he killed himself, would he return home? After which, he noted that he needed to calm down. Desperate, Ryu grabbed the ground with his hand. While in his thoughts, the main character stated that if through suicide it was possible to return to the original world, then this whole abduction would have no meaning. Trying to get up, Ryu noted that regardless of whether he died a good or bad death, this would be the end. Looking around the hellish lands, the main character said that first of all, he needs to think about how to survive and get out of this place. The system notified Ryu that the Chosen One's morale and lust for life tests were successful, indicating an increase in combat skills. Seeing something, the main character fell into a stupor. A panel appeared in front of his face and asked him to select a class. Smirking, Ryu noted that he was unlikely to be able to fight with his bare fists, suggesting that he had to choose between them. His gaze fell on the fighter class, whose resource was aura. The system reported that the fighter uses various fighting techniques and fights in close combat. Recalling the fight with Man-Ups, the main character noted that it was quite interesting in the game, adding that here he somehow didn't want it. Ryu was convinced that long range was safer, noting that he would choose a mage. The main character's gaze fell on the panel, which indicated the characteristics of the magician, whose main resource was mana. It was stated there that the mage skillfully uses magic and is capable of inflicting 6 types of damage at a long distance. The system reported a failure because the main character's points were not enough. Standing in front of the panel that listed the classes, Ryu was amazed that he also needed skills. Looking at the panel where the refusal notice was indicated, the main character stated that in this case, he would change it to a war mage. In his thoughts, he assumed that a healer would be available to him. Suddenly, the system again informed him of his lack of skills. The protagonist's face was filled with despair. The system reported to Ryu that he had chosen a fighter. With tears in his eyes, the main character noted that he had no choice. The panel that appeared in front of him indicated that he needed to select a weapon. In his thoughts, Ryu suggested that he needed to find something that was more authentic. Pointing to the long spear, with an inspired expression on his face, the protagonist declared that he could not yield here. Powerful streams of light emanated from the weapon selection panel. A sword appeared before Ryu's feet. The system notified him that the longsword had been selected as his primary weapon. Seeing this, the main character fell into a stupor. Looking at the panel that showed the error, an angry Ryu stated that he had not chosen a long sword, but a long spear. The indignant protagonist was amazed that an error had arisen in the system again. Just when Ryu wanted to try to get rid of the error, the panel disappeared right before his eyes. A memory surfaced in his mind of a mysterious voice speaking about an error that had occurred as a result of downloading the instructions. While in his thoughts, the main character noted that things couldn't get any worse. Holding his head, Ryu thought that they should at least leave the normal instructions, not understanding what kind of mistake he had with this. Looking at the long sword provided, the main character began to laugh hysterically. In his thoughts, he noted that he did not want to do what these pathetic worms intended. Observing the corpse of the Man-Ups in the reflection, Ryu stated that in any case, it was better than stone. Blood continued to flow from the dead monster's mouth. Continuing to think, the main character noted that he did not want to die. Inspired, Ryu raised his sword above his head. Night was gradually falling in the vastness of the hellish lands. The main character said that this is how his endless hell began with increasing levels. Due to the sheer weight of the sword, Ryu nearly fell to the ground. Clumsily waving his sword, the main character did not stop trying to learn. Suddenly, due to a sharp lunge, Ryu gradually began to fall. Ultimately, he fell to the ground with a crash. With a face full of despair, the main character froze in one position. Grasping the long sword with both hands, Ryu rushed towards the monster. The main character said that 7 days have passed since he hit Sirarakta. Lost in his thoughts, he said that he asked countless times how to get back, noting that the program never gave an answer. The hilt of the sword showed many abrasions due to countless fights. Ryu wondered if it was because of a mistake. Continuing to think, the main character noted that in order to survive in this place, he needs to fight. Pushing off from Ryu's back, the monster quickly began to run away. Looking at the monster, the angry protagonist shouted after him that he should not dare run away and attack. Turning in his direction, the enraged monster let out a powerful roar. The main character said that his opponents are still the dogs of hell, noting some changes. The system notified Ryu that his opponents had leveled up. Lost in thought, the main character froze in one position. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu said that they were now waiting and attacking in between swings of the sword. The main character could not believe that gradually he was starting to get used to it. Rushing towards the Hellhound, Ryu noted that in this case, knowing their habits, it would not be difficult to find a way to defeat them. After his inept blow, the monster jumped to the side. Puzzled, Ryu revealed that he still doesn't know how to use the sword. After which, opening his mouth, the Hellhound rushed at the main character. Concentrating, Ryu prepared for a powerful attack. After tearing the enraged monster's body into pieces, the main protagonist noted its cutting ability. The system notified Ryu that he had defeated the level 2 Hellhound, adding that he had gained 22 experience points. The main character's panel indicated that the current amount of experience was 262 out of 280. The system showed Ryu his current abilities. At that moment, the main character was thinking that when his level rose, he gained a skill. Unexhausted Ryu reported his victory. The main character noted that even without sword skills, using cutting was very easy. A bright flame could be seen from the depths of the cave. Ryu reported that this was one of the few values of the instruction. On a wooden stick, the main character tried to cook the meat of a wild animal. Ryu said that if you use the search engine built into it, then hellhound meat was ideal for food. The system informed the main character about hellhound meat, which contains the necessary fats and amino acids, noting that it is recommended to be consumed in cooked form. She also told him about hellhound blood, which contains essential minerals, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, adding a recommendation for drinking. While trying to eat it, Ryu noted that the meat was quite tough. The main character said that also upon close examination it turned out that the teeth and claws of hellhounds cannot cause serious wounds, since they are dulled. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu noted that this place looked artificial. Chewing a piece of meat, the main character thought that everything here was planned for a specific purpose, adding that if the goal was not lifelong imprisonment, then there was no point in kidnapping. A memory flashed through his mind where the stranger was amazed at the number of participants, adding that the original number of candidates was over 7 billion. Tearing off a piece of meat, Ryu suggested that there were other players. Suddenly, a panel appeared in front of the main character's face, which informed him that upon reaching the 5th level, he would leave the current location Stone Mountains and join a group with another player. Seeing this, Ryu was amazed that there were stone mountains here. A panel appeared in front of the protagonist's face, which stated that his starting point was the Stone Mountains, which were a safe zone created for training and quickly leveling up, adding that the likelihood of his death was low. The panel indicated that the zone was inhabited by weak monsters corresponding to the player's initial skills. Also, the system notified Ryu that helping the player reach the 5th level and adapt to life in Siraratha are monsters corresponding to the player's level, which are a feature only of this region, adding that in the future he should try to overcome difficult situations with the help of other players. The system stated that upon reaching the 20th level, the preparation will be completed and the main character will move to the Ratha continent. Hearing this, the indignant Ryu fell into a stupor. An image of a game that separated individual play and group play arose in his head. The main character noted that if you put everything into perspective, then this was a special place for beginners where you can easily level up to the 5th level. Ryu suggested that once he reached level 5, he would go to another region, team up with other players, and the main game would begin. An image of the game land appeared in his head. The main character believed that from level 20 he would move to the Ratha continent. Suddenly, an error appeared on the panel again. Ryu wondered what exactly he would do on the Ratha continent. Seeing the mistake, he was confused. In his thoughts, he imagined how he, as a novice, fought against hellhounds of various levels. The main character said that the level of monsters increases gradually in accordance with him. Clutching his head as he watched the error appear on the screen, Ryu noted that this was very important information, wondering if he would be able to get home. The main character was sure that he could not believe the instructions. Imagining himself moving into a group of other players, Ryu noted that if he wanted to meet other people and gain information, he must reach level 5 and get out of there. It was evening in the districts of the Hellish Lands. Rushing at the angry hellhound, Ryu said that from that moment on, he began to search for and kill monsters with new tenacity. In a fierce battle, the main character stuck his sword into the back of the hellhound. Ryu noted that since their level increased in accordance with his, it was not difficult to defeat them. At the moment when the main character ate the meat of the defeated monster, the system notified him that he had received 22 experience points, adding that his current number of experience points was equal to 284 out of 280. She stated that Ryu had received the necessary amount of experience points and reached a new level. Putting his sword behind his back, the main character rushed at one of the hellhounds standing in his way. At that moment, he activated the horizontal strike ability. Ryu reported that while fighting the hellhounds it continued to grow stronger. Beside himself with rage, the monster let out a powerful roar. The system told about a 3rd level hellhound, which has combat skills comparable to those of a novice fighter. Due to the harsh blow from the hellhound, Ryu was thrown to the side. Having come to his senses, the main character again headed towards the monster. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu reported an endless cycle of killing, eating, and sleeping. After the battle was over, he headed to the cave where he again tasted the monster's meat. It was deep night on the street of the Hellish Lands. At the moment of the battle, a maddened hellhound attacked the main character. An angry Ryu made every effort to throw him off. At the last moment, the main character was able to dodge the jaws of a wild monster. Memories of days repeated over and over again surfaced in his head. The system continued to notify him that he had won the hellhounds and leveled up. With incredible power, the crazed monster attacked Ryu. Because of his attack, the main character flew to the side. Having landed, he tried to grab a piece of ground in order to come to a complete stop. Suddenly, he found the mouth of a hellhound right in front of his face. At the moment of the attack, Ryu collected a handful of earth into his hand, after which, he threw it straight into the face of the angry monster. Because of this, the maddened beast let out a powerful roar. With lightning speed, the main character managed to hit the hellhound. The system informed Ryu that he had received 81 experience points, claiming that he had received the required amount. Overjoyed, the main character cried out that he had finally done it. The 27th day has passed since Ryu was in the Hellish Lands. Next, the main character turned his attention to gaining a new level and abilities. While in his thoughts, Ryu said that by increasing levels, he also gained 3 abilities. The joyful protagonist pointed his finger at one of the points on the panel that was in front of his face. Ryu noted that the increase in skill also had a certain effect on the body, adding that at first he even had difficulty lifting a two-handed sword, but now he can swing it with ease. The main character stated that in this world, efforts are rewarded. Suddenly, he noticed that a strange error had appeared on the panel again. In his thoughts, Ryu said that deep down he assumed something like this. The system stated that Ryu Hanbin, who is a 4th level warrior, becomes a 1st level warrior again. Seeing this, the main character fell into a stupor. Grinning, Ryu noted that the instructions never ceased to amaze him, suggesting that there was some kind of error in the graphical interface. The main character was sure that now he would go to the status window and everything would be fine there. Looking at the panel, Ryu wondered about his current level. The status screen indicated that the main character was level 1. Seeing this, Ryu fell into genuine rage. The main character suggested that first, he needs to calm down, adding that in this situation he needs to think sensibly. Looking at the screen, he noted that his level was equal to the first, despite the fact that his skill points remained the same as his abilities. Continuing his thoughts, Ryu said that at first he tried to look at things optimistically. While trying to figure out the status screen, the main character stated that there was a safe zone, which is why the hellhounds, like him, will become level 1. Ryu believed that this was why he could increase his skill points with ease. The stunned protagonist said that this was a perfect win. Drops of slowly flowing blood could be seen on the rocky hill. Ryu's shoulder bore horrifying wounds caused by the monster's clutches. The frightened protagonist tried to block the attack of the angry hellhound. Continuing to think, Ryu noted that this was a delusion. Having pierced the maddened monster, the main character said that the hellhounds were becoming stronger regardless of the level, adding that now any mistake cost a life. In complete shock, Ryu grabbed his wound. The system again notified him that he was becoming level 1. Rushing towards the next hellish dog, the main character screamed that this time he would succeed. Having cut the angry monster's paw in 2, Ryu strongly hoped that this time it would definitely work out. Having blocked the attack of the hellhound, the main character thought about just one time. Putting his sword behind his back, his thoughts were filled with prayers for the completion of this stage. Beside himself with rage, Ryu again saw how the system notified him that he had received a new level. Another error was visible on the status screen. With lightning speed, the main character struck down a pack of hellhounds. Looking at the status screen, Ryu said that he continued to kill increasing monsters, adding that checking his experience points had become his routine. Being in complete despair, the main character stated that he had 77 points left to the 5th level. Dragging the monster's corpse behind him, Ryu noted that it was like the 7 parts of the Roka. Having dragged the corpse of the hellhound, the main character threw it into a pit with bones. Ryu reported that he endlessly increased from level 1 to 4, noting that during those 7 hell-like years, he realized one thing. The protagonist's face was covered with multiple scars, received as a result of battles with monsters. Ryu said that players do not age, adding that, in addition, thanks to the recovery skill, minor wounds healed within a day. Walking away from the pit filled with bones, the main character said that after returning to the 1st level, skill points do not disappear anywhere, stating that due to the lack of leveling up, he was unable to obtain new abilities. Looking at the unimaginably huge hellhound skeleton, Ryu revealed that it only has slash, horizontal strike and vertical strike. The enraged monster's skeleton let out a terrifying roar. Pointing a sword at him, the main character declared that since he appeared, today was his lucky day. While in his thoughts, Ryu reported that the hellhounds were also strengthening according to his experience points. The maddened monster rushed towards the main character. At that moment, Ryu was amazed by the words of strangers who said that the place was created so that players could level up faster. The main character suggested that it was created in order to kill them as quickly as possible. Lost in his thoughts, he wondered whether it was even possible to survive there. Looking at the bony jaw of the hellhound, Ryu couldn't figure out what it was. Smiling, the main character noted that during all this time, he had adapted. On the black screen, one could see the silhouettes of people who participated in this game. The mysterious voice stated that all necessary instructions had been given to them, adding that they were moving on to the 5th simulation of the world of Charon Ratha. Stretching, the stranger was amazed that it was already the 5th, asking if he was used to it. The mysterious voice noted that the simulation usually takes a long time, which is why it needs to be cleaned. The mysterious voice said that this time it would be for a larger number of participants. Suddenly, the silhouette of a stranger discovered something within the confines of his room. Approaching the unknown artifacts, he assumed that it was a simulation, noting that he had forgotten about it. Taking the document in his hands, the stranger suggested that some kind of glitch had occurred or that he simply didn't like her. On the sheet that the stranger was holding, the face of the main character was visible. The stranger noted that he was in the process of moving to Siraratha. Opening his eyes, Ryu discovered what was in his home. Lying on the bed, the main character assumed that he had finally returned home. Closing his eyes, he wondered how much time had passed since demobilization, declaring that regardless of this, he would still sleep. Opening his, he found a panel that was bursting due to the huge number of notifications. At that moment, Ryu couldn't understand why it was so loud. The main character's hand was pointed at the commit suicide button. Suddenly, in horror, he opened his eyes again. Stunned, Ryu abruptly removed his hand from the button. Rising from the ground, the main character wondered where he was. His gaze fell on the gap, which was located between two stone hills. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu reported that 10 years of mad killings of hellhounds had passed. Continuing his thoughts, he assumed that he had fallen off a cliff, noting that despite this, he did not die. Smiling, Ryu wondered if this was good or bad, adding that he was level 1 again. Holding his head, the main character was overcome by a gust of uncontrollable hysterical laughter. Being in his thoughts, he could not understand whether he could continue to live like this. With a look of despair, Ryu suggested that he should finally put an end to this horror. Suddenly, in the vastness of hellish lands, he heard an unimaginably powerful roar. Getting up from the ground, the main character noted that he had thought about this many times, suggesting that with the help of suicide he could return home. Turning his head, Ryu stated that even if he died, it would not be bad, adding that it was not the time yet. Raising his long sword over the head of the hellhound, the main character announced that he would finish off another one. The skin of a slain hell monster hung over Ryu's window. While in his thoughts, he said that 10 years had passed since his appearance there. After which, the main character noted that in his 10th year he stopped keeping track of time. The hellhound's skin hung right above his bed. Continuing his thoughts, Ryu wondered how many years had passed since then. Opposite the entrance to the main character's hideout stood a sculpture of a monster. Ryu reported that in between killing hellhounds, he even found a hobby, noting that he had at least some variety. Opposite the sculpture of the monster was a part of the main character's broken sword. Ryu stated that despite the fact that surviving there itself is not an easy task. Taking a piece of cloth in his hands, the main character began to carefully clean the blade of the blade. Ryu noted that this is a cruel environment that does not forgive laziness. Raising an unimaginably powerful weapon above his head, the main character declared that this is now reality. Fixing the sword behind his back, Ryu announced that this was his reality. Above the roof of the main character's house, part of a hellhound's bone was visible. In his thoughts, Ryu said that he had nothing to do. Smiling, he noted that his days are busy, adding that he is doing everything he can. Standing in front of his shelter, the main character said that since there was no one in these mountains, he could create his own country. Ryu noted that he started at home, adding that his days were full of worries. Suddenly, he was attacked by a hellish dog, which was of colossal size. The main character reported that his anger had finally passed. Seeing him, Ryu fell into a stupor. The paw of the hellish monster was rapidly heading towards him. With lightning speed, the main character managed to fend off the powerful attack of the hellhound. Baring his teeth, the monster froze in one position. Dust rose at the sight of his impact. Suddenly, the stunned hellhound discovered that he had lost his paw. Standing in front of the rubble of his shelter, Ryu stated that he spent 3 years building this house. Beside himself with rage, the main character said that he built it with his bare hands, noting that it was not big. After which, he wondered if he should build a palace this time. With an incredibly irritated look, Ryu declared that he would build it from the bones of a hellhound. Hearing this, the frightened monster let out a terrifying roar. The main character said that recently monsters smaller than this giant have not appeared, noting that the meat of his kind has absolutely no taste, saying that they are very loud. Pushing off from the ground, the hellhound hung in the air. Ryu noted that despite his size, he runs fast. Tongues of flame were visible from the mouth of the enraged monster. While in his thoughts, the main character said that during the hunt he had learned all their tricks. Ryu noted that at the beginning of the battle, the monster tried to attack him in close combat. Having opened his mouth to the fullest extent of his might, the hellhound used the Devil's Breath ability. Looking at the technique created, Ryu was confused. Observing the powerful flow of aura that accompanied the technique, the main character was amazed that the monster was immediately using it. Hanging in the air, the hellhound continued to attack Ryu. The enraged monster's technique was accompanied by a powerful whirlwind created as a result of the attack. Taking a step forward, the hellhound froze in one position. Looking at the site of the impact, the monster expected further action. Seeing something, he bared his teeth again. Having folded his hands to block the blow, the main character froze in one position. Ryu noted that this attack has a huge area of effect, adding that it is impossible to evade. After which, the main character said that despite this, if you concentrate, you can withstand it. Exhaling, Ryu grabbed his weapon. The indignant protagonist stated that the monster burned the ends of his hair, noting that there were no hairdressers there. Suddenly, the enraged monster used one of his techniques, as a result of which the entire area was covered with magical seals. While in his thoughts, the main character said that when the enemy is in despair, he begins to use various kinds of magic, citing the example of lightning, fire, light, and so on. Continuing to think, Ryu noted that such magic was quite fast and painful. Shielding his body with his sword, the main character prepared to defend himself. The angry hellhound used many different techniques to defeat Ryu. The main character said that he uses the earth for his protection. 2 earthen walls formed around Ryu. Pushing off the ground, the main character rushed towards the hellhound, declaring that it was time for him to call it a day. With lightning speed, he overtook the monster, cutting off part of its claws. Suddenly, Ryu's face was filled with incredible fear. With unimaginable speed, the main character began to fall towards the mouth of the hellhound. In his thoughts, Ryu noted that he still lacked sword skills. Suddenly, the main character kicked the stunned monster in the jaw. Ryu reported that his level did not increase, and his abilities were not added. The protagonist's face was filled with determination. Concentrating, he raised the sword above his head, after which Ryu prepared to strike. Continuing to think, Ryu stated that if you repeat the techniques hundreds, thousands of times. With unimaginable speed, the main character rushed towards the hellhound. Towering over the monster, Ryu used a vertical strike, after which, placing the weapon behind his back, the main character used a horizontal blow. Moving his sword forward, Ryu used slash. At that moment, he was thinking about the same abilities. After cutting the hellhound's body into small pieces, Ryu used a cross strike. After landing on the ground, the main character used the triple cross. The main character said that this ability was not real, adding that its effect was not very similar to the cross. Placing his weapon on his shoulder, Ryu noted that he had survived again today. Looking at the image of the main character, a mysterious voice announced the process of moving to Siroratha. The mysterious voice noted that it saw the very one who had the error. Horrified, he wondered why Ryu was still there, after which he remembered Siroratha. Holding a certain artifact in his hands, a mysterious voice said that he was now working on the 5th simulation of Charon Arta, adding that before that there was a 4th Roharatha. Holding his head, the angry stranger declared that Sira Arta was the 3rd. He was amazed by the fact that it was 22 years ago. Kneeling down, the stranger noted that this was a big problem and that he had no excuses. The stranger understood that it was also impossible to kill the main character, wondering what he should do then. A panel appeared in front of his face, notifying him of Ryu's current stats. The stunned stranger could not understand how the main character survived with the 4th level for these 22 years. He noted that Ryu's skills and abilities were also at a very poor level. The stranger was sure that this needed to be sorted out as soon as possible. Smirking, he said that he had one way. In the night sky of the hellish lands, particles of ash were visible, which fluttered in the wind. Sitting on one of the parts of the defeated hellhound, the main character tried to eat a large piece of meat. Taken aback, Ryu noted that he had reached level 4 again, after which his gaze fell on the screen with the characteristics. In his thoughts, Ryu reported that he had an additional status opened. Looking at the status screen, the main character observed a significant increase in his stats. Chewing on a piece of meat, Ryu reflected on how much stronger he had become. Distressed, he noted that his level was still level 4. Hanging his head because of incredible sadness, Ryu said that he would like to eat something tasty and meet someone. Lost in his thoughts, he wondered how much longer he should live like this. Using a small stick, the main character drew his house on the ground. Continuing his thoughts, Ryu stated that if he survives. Smiling, the main character noted that someday he would be able to get out of there, adding that he needed to think positively. Suddenly, a mysterious magical object began to form in the sky. Looking at him, Ryu fell into a stupor. Stretching his hand forward, the stranger said that if they did this, problems might arise. The system notified the main character that the preparation of Siroratha was completed. Looking at the stunned Ryu, who raised his head, the stranger noted that he would be able to destroy all the records that were associated with him. The stranger was sure that with the 4th level on the Ratha continent, the main character would quickly die. Suddenly, a powerful explosion occurred in the vastness of the hellish lands, which destroyed the surface of the earth. The shocked Ryu began to be sucked upward. Frightened, he could not understand what it was. The stranger told the main character to die in new lands. With a look full of bewilderment, Ryu froze in one position. The huge magic cube began to disintegrate. A mysterious voice announced that the player was moving. The magic cube completed its transformation, turning into a ball. The daytime sky was gradually shrouded in gray clouds. Suddenly, powerful lightning flashed in the sky, the beam of which was directed into the thick of the forest. At that moment, a dragon was resting in the depths of the Meshura. Opening his eyes, he noted that they still disappointed him. Leaning on his wings, the dragon reported about a pathetic worm from another world. Various types of weapons were visible in the depths of his shelter. Looking around, Ryu froze in one position. Lost in his thoughts, he wondered at what point he began to take everything for granted. Finding himself in the thick of the forest, the main character reported a bright red sky in which there was never any sun, noting that there were only yellow bushes around. Continuing to think, Ryu could not understand why he had moved there so suddenly. Pushing off from the ground, the main character rose above the tree. Looking at the expanses of the forest, Ryu's face was enveloped in genuine happiness. The main character stated that he had no words. Hanging in the air, Ryu began to laugh with all his might. At that moment, the main character was talking about a hellish place that was shrouded in endless stone cliffs. The system notified Ryu that he was arriving in the Sath Forest in the kingdom of Grelot. Continuing to laugh, the main character collapsed into a nearby river. The plot takes us to the northern part of the Ratha continent. Putting his finger on his torn pants, Ryu noted that he was used to the rocks, adding that they never became his home. Looking at the stat screen, the main character found it strange that he had suddenly gained level 5, noting that he had also acquired the skill of interpreting. Straightening his hair, Ryu wondered if access to Wrath was unlocked after level 20. Looking at the newly appeared error, the main character could not understand why he was here. Moving his hand towards the stats screen, Ryu found a new tab. Seeing that, the main character fell into a stupor. A panel flashed in front of his face, informing him of his final mission, which was to destroy one of the 6 Ratha goddesses. The screen indicated the reward that Ryu would receive for the final mission. Rejoicing, the main character suggested that if he kills the goddess, his reward will be a return to Earth. Suddenly, a panel appeared in front of his face, which informed him that he needed to hide from the local residents the fact that he was from another world. Also, it was indicated that Ryu should join the Hunters Guild of the Free City of Onpros. Beside himself with rage, the dragon bared his teeth. Standing on a rocky slope, the monster let out a powerful roar. Seeing him, the main character was confused. Holding his head, Ryu wondered what it was. Raising his head, the main character noted that it was the first time he had seen such a monster. Looking at the monster with steam coming out of its mouth, Ryu guessed that it was a dragon. With a look full of anger, calling the main character a vicious demon, the dragon asked how he dared to enter his forest. Ryu's gaze was directed at his hand. Indignant, the monster asked if the main character decided to attack him without a weapon. Turning around, Ryu thought that he needed to quickly find his sword. The enraged dragon prepared to strike. Wary, the main character noted that since it was too late to talk to the monster. Spewing blue flames from its mouth, the dragon ordered him to die. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu said that in a difficult situation, he needed to act quickly. Pushing off from the ground, the main character headed towards the enraged monster, thinking that the time had come for his death. Ryu's fist was rapidly heading towards the dragon's mouth. After an unimaginably powerful blow, the stunned monster flew back. Continuing to think, the main character noted that now he needs to take the sword. Suddenly, from what he saw, Ryu fell into a stupor. Crowds of knights headed towards the dragon, holding various foods in their hands. In the knightly order of the kingdom of Ixrad, there lived a real natural dragon. His name was Ether and he was the pride of all knights. With a malicious grin on his face, the king ordered the knight to saddle the exhausted dragon. However, trials overtook everyone's favorite Ether. The foolish king constantly demanded to be ridden on a dragon. Suddenly, His Majesty quickly flew down. However, flying is no joke, His Majesty's crown landed on the ground, and he himself died as a result of the fall. Opposite the guillotine could be seen the bloody helmet of a knight. The knight who took care of the dragon was executed, but not before helping Ether escape from the kingdom. With a grin on his face and raising his sword in front of him, the man stated that he needed experience points. Ether hid in the forest and began to live there, but he had no time to be sad, because aliens from another world kept appearing in the forest. Covered with all sorts of wounds, the man noted that he would still take revenge on him. They could not become worthy opponents to the natural dragon, but Ether, a kind soul, could not kill them all. Maybe this was the root of all his troubles. Raising their weapons above their heads, the crowd of hunters headed towards the dragon. The aliens themselves were only thinking about how to kill the poor dragon, then Ether thought. With tears in his eyes, the dragon clung to the ground. Ether believed that the aliens should not be left alive, since then they appeared again and again. Tears flowed from the eyes of the unfortunate dragon. The disgruntled Ether said that he had no choice but to, after which he wondered if he was a dragon. The system informed us that in front of us was a level 27 wyvern. An image appeared in his head of a small dragon turning into a big one. Ether noted that he was a dragon, adding that only he had wings instead of front paws. He said that this is a characteristic feature of wyverns, which is why everyone calls him a wyvern. Bowing before Ryu, who raised his sword above his head, Ether said that all this was true, asking him to spare him. Smirking, the main character noted that what was more important to him was how he knew that he was from another world. Taken aback, the dragon stated that in fact, he did not know this, adding that when aliens die, their bodies evaporate. After which, Ether noted that locals do not often go to this forest. Leaning on his arm, Ryu continued to listen to the dragon's story, thinking that this was all just some kind of performance. Looking at the frightened dragon, the main character noted that he did not see any malicious intent. Turning to Ether, Ryu asked if this forest was Sath, the kingdom of Grelut. After hearing this, the dragon reported that the kingdom of Grelut had been destroyed, adding that Xrad was now here. Lost in his thoughts, the main character said that the information in the instructions had not been updated for a long time, wondering how he could return. Looking at the thoughtful Ryu, Ether continued to ask him for mercy, reporting that he did not know that he was so strong. The main character asked if the dragon was so peaceful, then why did he attack him first? The frightened Ether stated that Ryu was a vicious demon from another world. Beside himself with rage, the main character asked who the demon was. The stunned dragon began to ask for forgiveness, adding that it was not he who came up with this, but the goddess. Hearing this, the main character became wary. After the dragon's words, he asked him to tell him more about it. Wiping tears from his face, Ether said that the aliens first came to their world 40 years ago. Placing his paw on the wound, the dragon noted that it was very painful there, suggesting that he needed to go home and anoint it with something. An angry Ryu ordered Ether to continue his story. Having mounted the dragon, the main character headed towards his shelter, declaring that if he twitches, he will die. Ether told him that at one time they got along well with the aliens, noting that this did not last long. Entering the cave, the dragon carefully began to look for something. Ether stated that in order to increase the level, the aliens began to kill the Ratines, adding that at some point the most powerful of the aliens gathered in a group. Listening carefully to him, the main character froze in one position. The dragon reported that the aliens created the Grade of Organization, the purpose of which was to kill the goddess. Ether noted that the aliens were strong. A guy gone crazy tore a city resident into two. The dragon said that they could kill enemies with the power of a dragon, since with each kill they increased their level. A maddened group of people rushed at the defenseless goddess. Ether noted that no magic could stop their group under the leadership of a 100-level leader. Suddenly, a warrior holding a long sword in his hands attacked the distraught people. The dragon said that until they came, they were world famous. History introduces us to the Lord of the Sword Beathal. Raising her magical staff, the girl prepared for battle. The plot introduces us to the Archmage Genobius. Having bypassed many warriors, the stranger grabbed the neck of one of them. At that moment, we are introduced to the assassin Karkin. Concentrating a powerful stream of mana in her hands, the girl crushed the crowd of militant people. The plot introduces us to the Lord of Life and Death, Halion. The broadcast told about 4 heroes of the continent who were killed one after another in a short period of time. Disinfecting his wound with a healing potion, the dragon declared that after their death, responsibility for the entire continent fell on the shoulders of 6 goddesses. Ether reported that it is for this reason that Earthlings are considered accomplices of evil demons from another world, adding that now all aliens must be subject to the death penalty. An angry Ryu stated that he had been kidnapped and spent several decades among the Bear Rocks, after which he wondered for what purpose this was done. The main character asked a rhetorical question, which addressed the fact that because of this, the entire continent should consider him its enemy. Looking at the enraged Ryu, Ethan noted that all of this happened before he was born. At that moment, the main character wondered whether the goddesses were really so afraid of aliens. Taking the hilt of his sword, Ryu assumed that despite all his actions, be it an attempt to negotiate or just living a quiet life, he would in any case be branded as a demon and beaten to death as soon as they recognized him as an alien. With a malicious grin on his face, the main character declared that he would survive and return home. Wary, Ryu suggested that in this case, no one should know who he was. Horrified by what he saw, in his thoughts, Ether wondered if the main character was really a demon like the others. After which, the dragon stated that Ryu did not know anything, adding that one smart wyvern could help him. Suddenly, an unimaginably powerful scream was heard from the depths of the cave. The plot takes us to 5 days later. There were no clouds in the morning sky of the city. While in his thoughts, the main character suggested that if you leave the Stack Forest, you can see the fortress walls rising above the horizon. The expanses of the city of Onpros were covered by a river that enveloped it on all sides. Ryu explained what it is, located in the northern part of the kingdom of Ixrad, noting that it is known for its large size and huge population. In the depths of the forest there were many angry monsters. The protagonist reported that the nearby Sath Forest and the vast plains of the Ipin Valley were full of dungeons and monsters. Life was in full swing in the city center. The story takes us to the Onpro's Hunters Guild. One of the guild members, standing at the notice board, chose a task. Ether reported that those who cross its threshold are either hunters or those who want to become one. A fight broke out at the table of one of the companies. Holding the task sheet in her hands, the girl tried to explain something to one of the hunters. Entering the guild, the main character froze in one position. The dragon noted that he was either an alien from another world. Turning his attention to Ryu, the elder fell into a stupor. He was shocked by the protagonist's physique, noting that he had never seen one before. The stunned guild members began to watch the main character who had just entered. The guy suggested that Ryu was a member of another guild, adding that he looked like a veteran. With a perplexed look, the hunter turned towards the main character. After punching him in the face, the girl welcomed Ryu to the guild. She noted that she had not seen him there before, assuming that he was new to the Onpro's Hunters Guild. With a stony expression on his face, the main character froze in one position. Turning to him, the girl asked how she could help him. Raising his head, Ryu stated that he wanted to become a hunter. Hearing this, all the guild members suddenly grabbed their weapons. From the dragon's hideout came the voice of the protagonist, who said that he could help him. Looking at Ryu, leaning on his sword, Ether noted that in appearance it was difficult to identify an alien in him, adding that even without this there were many dangers in the world. Taken aback, the dragon declared that despite all this, sooner or later he could still kill him. Stretching out his hand towards the perplexed Ether, the main character noted that he was also wanted, saying that he had also killed a lot of people. Ryu didn't think the dragon should be watching his every move. Smiling slightly, the main character said that he had not spoken to anyone for a very long time. Hearing this, Ether fell into a stupor. The memory of being surrounded by the smiles of knights spending time with him flashed through his mind. Lost in his thoughts, the dragon froze in one position. Turning away from the surprised Ryu, Ether said that he would help him. Hearing this, the main character expressed his gratitude. Wiping away the tears that appeared, the dragon asked him not to ask him about every little thing. Suddenly, the stunned Ether covered his face with his paws at the moment when Ryu took off his clothes. The main character said that first of all he needed clothes. Looking at Ryu, whose shirt was hanging off his head, Ether asked what he was doing. Taken aback, the main character announced that he was changing clothes. Indignant, the dragon noted that Ryu was now naked. The main character noticed that Ether was also naked. In the process of changing Ryu's clothes, the dragon closed its eyes. While trying on his clothes, the main character suggested that they were too small for him, adding that his legs were a little narrow. Having drawn an image of a man on the rock, Ether said that first he would talk about the everyday life of this world. Sitting down on the floor, the main character began to listen to him. The dragon said that you can't take off your clothes wherever you want. Hearing this, Ryu asked him to tell him how to meet the goddesses. Pointing his claw at the rock painting, Ether said that in Ratha only a few were granted their audience, saying that first the main character needs to receive the blessing of the 4 great heroes who stopped the alien invasion. The image of a man appeared in the dragon's head, whose body was dressed in indestructible armor. Ether noted that he would not exaggerate that Otam and Omplas is still strong right now, adding that the only way to obtain the blessing is to become a hunter and kill all the monsters created by the demons. Pointing his finger at the air, the protagonist asked if this was true, stating that the instructions also said that you first need to become a hunter. Hearing this, Ether wondered what instruction Ryu was talking about. The main character noted that she was right in front of them. Looking at the surprised Ryu, the dragon said that there was nothing here. Being in his thoughts, the main character assumed that only he could see her. After which, Ryu told Ether that it was something like a manual that only aliens like him could see, adding that in his case, for some reason, some kind of bugs were constantly happening. Hearing this, with a puzzled expression on his face, Ether asked what this meant. Having entered the guild, Ryu froze in one position. Looking at the faces of the stunned guild members, the protagonist noted that, unlike other jobs, a hunter is more free to move, adding that, in addition, being a hunter, a person with a high level looks less suspicious. Clenching his fist, Ryu stated that he needed to be extremely careful, noting that many aliens thought so too, after which they were revealed. While combing the main character's hair, Ether stated that he should under no circumstances behave like a foreigner. Desperate, Ryu noted that if he was nervous, he would give himself away. While signing the documents, the girl named the main character Mr. Eric Heron. Continuing the recording, she asked if he was born in Gombal, which is in the northern part of the kingdom. Answering hesitantly, the main character said that this was so. With a look full of fear in his thoughts, the main character announced that he had stumbled. Looking at the wary girl, Ryu thought that he looked suspicious. Smiling, she welcomed the main character to the Onpro's Hunters Guild. Clenching his fist from nerves, Ryu noted that he survived this. Having imagined the image of Ether in his head, which told him how to introduce himself, the main character assumed that an important stage had been passed. Putting down the form with the documents, the girl said that they would send a request to his previous guild and she would independently transfer information about his pedigree as well as a birth certificate. After which, she asked if Ryu gave his documents there. Looking at the taken aback girl, the main character said that this was not so. Further, the girl asked why he wanted to become a hunter. Holding the handles of their weapons, the guild hunters froze in one position. With a perplexed look, the girl asked if the main character wanted to say that before that he had not been a member of any guild. Squinting her eye, she waited for Ryu's answer. Drops of sweat gradually ran down the excited hunter's face. Putting the weapon behind his back, the stranger asked if the main character was a hunter. Taking hold of his helmet, the guild member assumed that Ryu was an alien. Having interrupted him, the girl ordered everyone to be silent. Looking around, the main character wondered what kind of atmosphere this was. Sitting at the next table, the hunter took up his axe. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu could not understand where he had gone wrong. Raising his hand, the main character froze in one position. Surprised, Ryu wondered if he needed to engage someone in battle. Continuing to think, the main character stated that he would not attack first, adding that otherwise he would give himself away. The faces of the guild members were filled with disbelief. Smirking, the girl said that now, in accordance with the standards of the guild, he would test Ryu's skills. The protagonist's hand froze a centimeter from the stone slab. The girl said that all he had to do was touch the verification stone. Wary, Ryu assumed that they wanted to check if he was an alien. In his thoughts, the main character understood that if he was discovered here, then there was no hope of meeting the goddess. Looking at the exit from the guild, Ryu was sure that he needed to escape before it was too late, noting that this would automatically mean a confession. Throwing up the hilt of his sword, the main character noted that he could easily deal with everyone here. Touching the stone slab and continuing to think, Ryu said that he expected any outcome. Holding her face, the girl was shocked by the number of skill points. The stunned hunters assumed that Ryu was of hero level. After straightening his hair, the main character asked if they noticed it. Riding the dragon, Ryu declared that he would kill the Demonopolis. Inspired, the man said that he believed in it. Looking at Ether, whose gaze was full of doubts, the main character said that the guild members said that the inhabitants of another world were cool. After which, Ryu stated that this is such a dance. Trying to repeat the dance moves, the dragon asked the main character to listen carefully, noting that he was shy. While in shock, Ryu was amazed that if you try, like Ether, you can even do it. Touching the stone, he reported that the main character is a 5th level fighter. Seeing this, Ryu fell into a stupor. The girl's face was filled with incomprehension. Frozen in genuine shock, the guild members began looking at each other. It was clear on their faces that they could barely contain their laughter. After which, the guild room was filled with irritatingly loud laughter. Bursting with laughter, the man thought that Ryu might be an alien. The stunned protagonist turned to the girl and asked what was the matter. Covering her mouth with her hand, she apologized in every possible way. Waving her hand in front of her face, the girl said that all sorts of remote villages are usually named as birthplaces by aliens. After which, she noted that if the main character's level had been higher, then misunderstandings would definitely not have been avoided. Smirking, the hunter said that these pathetic worms are usually level 20. Folding his hands, the guy assumed that they had some unique standards. Holding a mug of alcohol in his hand, the guild member stated that this is the reason why everyone who tries to join the Hunters Guild at level 20 is cut off. Bowing his head in respect to the girl, he wondered which of them was still a demon. Looking at Ryu, she said that the entry fee was 300x. While in his thoughts, the main character was extremely glad that his level had not risen. Reaching his hand into his bag, Ryu fell into a stupor. The main character was shocked that 300x was approximately equal to 3 million won. Indignant, Ether stated that he had somehow accumulated these 400x. Raising his hand, Ryu noted that if he saves for 6 months, he will pay it back. Smirking, the guy suggested that the main character, whom he called a hillbilly, was giving away his last. The young man sitting next to him reported rumors that say that aliens don't eat gold. With a look of despair, Ryu provided payment. In his thoughts, he assumed that others get money at the beginning. In the protagonist's hand was the guild emblem, which depicted a dragon. Smiling, the girl said that if Ryu lost him, he would have to pay a penalty of 80x's. She noted that as the level increases, the amount of the penalty will also increase. Continuing to think, the main character was glad that the rise would finally begin from the very bottom. Clutching the guild emblem in his hand, Ryu thought that now he should become famous as a hunter. Turning to him, The girl asked if he would like to take the application. Inspired, the main character asked if they had any tasks in the dungeons. Placing the assignment sheet on the table, the guy asked if Ryu was talking about the dungeon. Smirking, he asked if the protagonist was going to feed the monsters there, suggesting that he abandoned the idea. Raising his finger, the guy stated that with the 5th level, the main character should understand this. Hearing this, Ryu fell into a stupor. Looking at Rod, who had his hand on his head, the girl asked if he was going to the Sack Forest with the group. Rod reported that the number of monsters in the dungeon had increased recently, noting that they had already begun to cause trouble for the locals. After fixing his hair, he stated that they could not give such an important task to a newcomer, adding that they needed someone with the same high level as him. While in his thoughts, the main character reported that Rod's level was the same as Ether's. Looking around, Ryu said that compared to other guild members, Rod's level was higher. Leaning towards the girl, he asked if there was a dungeon there, wondering where the monsters came from in that case. Taken aback, the girl said that nothing extraordinary had happened. Looking at Rod, who was glaring at the girl, Ryu thought that it was better for him not to mess with him. The excited girl suggested that Rod's group had an empty seat. The protagonist's face was filled with misunderstanding. Mr. Eric is now level 5 and, let alone a dungeon, he can hardly cope even with individual tasks, she said. Hearing this, with a puzzled look, Ryu froze in one position. Looking at Rod, who was fingering his hair, the girl said that it would be good if the main character started with minor work in his group and gained a little experience. While in his thoughts, Ryu was amazed that he had to go to the group with this show-off. Smiling, Rod noted that there was nothing to be done in this situation. Turning, he drew attention to the stranger, whose head was covered with a cloak. Rod stated that they already have a new member of the group, adding that there are no openings. Looking at the main character, she said that her name is Addis and she is a magician of the 25th level. A panel that appeared next to her stated that her level was 37. While in his thoughts, Ryu noted that her character level was higher in the window, suggesting that she had some reason for hiding her level. Frozen in one position, Addis was mired in her thoughts. Smiling, the main character wondered why she was looking at him, adding that there was no place anyway. Rod put his hand to his face and focused his attention on one point. Poking himself in the chest, he stated that the Onpros Hunters Guild is proud of its members, noting that if the request is from her, calling the girl cute, then he cannot refuse to help the main character, calling him a lost lamb. Rod stated that he would do this even though he, like an insect, is level 5. He assured the girl that he would take full responsibility. An enraged Ryu wondered who Rod called an insect. Taking hold of the protagonist's weapon, with a grin on his face, Rod asked if he dreams of becoming a sword lord. Folding his hands, Ryu thought that he better not be his opponent. At that moment, the main character thought that if he continued to pester him, he would die a painful death. Grabbing Ryu's long sword, Rod wondered how he could carry such a toy around with him. Reflecting on the protagonist's weapon, he noted that he could not move it from its place. Turning his head, Ryu's gaze was shrouded in incredible anger. Seeing this, Rod fell into a stupor. Raising the sword along with the stunned guild member, the main character announced that he was doing it this way. On the second floor of the guild, the silhouette of a man could be seen who was watching all this. Raising their weapons above their heads, the hunters demanded their fight. Grinning, the man noted that he had finally found it. Having raised his sword, together with the stunned Rod, the main character froze in one position. The guild member's face was filled with shock. With a perplexed look, the girl watched all this. Alcohol slowly flowed out of the mouth of the stranger watching all this. With genuine interest, the man began to look at the main character. Looking at Ryu, who continued to hold the sword with Rod, he noted its form, guessing that he was at least level 10. With a puzzled look, the main character wondered who it was. An outraged Rod ordered Bjork not to interfere with the newcomer during training. Folding his hands, he asked if the main character's name was Eric. Bjork noted that you can fight here too. Looking at Ryu's long sword stuck in the wall, he stated that if he did, he would destroy everything here, adding that then he would have to fight all of them. Frightened, the main character said that he did not want to do this. Ryu stated that he had no intention of fighting everyone here. Being in his thoughts, the main character was sure that he could not make a mistake under any circumstances. Falling to the floor, calling Ryu a pathetic worm, the stunned Rod noted that he was level 5. Turning to the main character, he asked what he could do with such a level without him. Intuitively reaching for his weapon, Ryu realized that he was right when he added that he had spent all the money on the entry fee. The main character believed that with his current level he was not capable of anything, after which Bjork asked him not to worry. Slapping the surprised Ryu's chest, he noted that with such a form, he would easily raise the level, adding that he was looking for such a mountain of muscles. After Bjork's words, the protagonist's face was shrouded in misunderstanding. Turning to Ryu, he asked if he would like to join their group. Inspired, Bjork suggested that the main character spent more than one day on this form. Looking at the main character, he noted that judging by his level, he still lacks experience. The system notified Ryu that Bjork's level was 25. In his thoughts, the main character said that the level of the group leader was quite high. Observing the approving glances of the guild members, Ryu reported that since he was an alien, his leveling speed was higher than that of the Raticane. Continuing to think about this situation, the main character believed that he was unlikely to be able to stay in this group for long. On the second floor of the guild, a group of girls settled down and greeted Ryu. The main character said that if you hit your head against a wall, you should at least wear a helmet. Approaching the merchant, the knight gave payment for the potion he had purchased. The industry has evolved from monsters and dungeons, and most of the jobs here involve hunting monsters or the materials obtained from them. The silhouette of a monster was visible from the depths of the cave at the moment when a harmless animal was visible from the Sath forest. In its vicinity there are two famous hunting places. Coming out of the thick of the forest, the animal froze in one position. There are several small villages near the latter, but the monsters do not cause much harm to them and rarely attack the inhabitants. In the very heart of the village someone's scream was heard. But recently, in the vicinity of one of the villages, a large number of monsters began to be noticed. To find out the reason for what was happening and at the same time hunt them, many hunters came here from all over the country. At the entrance to the village there was a crowd of angry monsters emitting powerful roars. The system informed us that it was a Devalk, a low-ranked monster that lives in the Sath forest, slow, but its muscle mass is capable of crushing stone. With lightning speed, the Devalk rushed towards the knight. At the moment of the attack, the raging monster tried to ram his shield. Suddenly, with the help of colossal power, the man managed to knock the monster to the ground. Hitting a nearby stone, the monster again let out a terrifying roar. Baring their teeth, the enraged Devalkas surrounded him on all sides. Assessing the situation, Bjork thought about the distraction the monsters had used, claiming that he had relaxed. Suddenly, with lightning speed, Rafael rushed to attack the maddened monster. Falling to his knee, Bjork began to try as hard as he could. His face was filled with confidence. Rafael's blade pierced the Devalk through and through. Suddenly, a woman appeared from the depths of the forest and, with unimaginable speed, destroyed the monster on the way. Having thrust her spear into the monster, she hung in the air. Grinning, she noted that Bjork had pushed the Devalk away, suggesting that it was time for him to retire. The story introduces us to Mbo Vanetta, who was a key figure in the attacking vanguard of Bjork's group. Seeing something, Mbo became wary. Laughing, Rafael said it was a good idea. Looking at Bjork's wound, Vanetta fell into a stupor. An excited Mbo said that the bleeding needed to be stopped as quickly as possible, noting that it was nothing but trouble. Turning towards Mbo, Bjork asked her not to worry about him. Looking at Rafael's lips, Waynetta couldn't understand what he was talking about, wondering why she should bother. Suddenly, the wound on Bjork's body began to heal immediately. With her hands folded, the girl asked the wind of nature to send life-giving force there. Smiling, she asked if her brother was okay. The plot introduces us to Bjork's younger sister, Yvonne Rafael, who was a healer. Showing off his powerful biceps, Bjork said that he could do this all day long. Confused, Mbo ordered Rafael not to dare die. Suddenly, the mouth of an angry monster appeared behind Yvonne. Turning around, she fell into a stupor. Suddenly, with the help of fire techniques, the Devalk's head flew off his shoulders. The guy standing next to him used a fire hammer. Holding a magic staff in his hands, he noted that a little more and they would not have escaped trouble. The plot shows us the person in charge of the rearguard, Hubo Krutas, who was a magician. Putting her hand to her face, Yvonne asked what happened, saying that she didn't see anything. Being in full combat readiness, Bjork's team froze in one position. Bjork's group was a well-balanced team, where everyone knows their place. In terms of the number of successful tasks, they are the first. They are also considered the most reliable group in Onprosue. With a serious expression on his face, the main character stated that he could not find better conditions for a novice hunter. At the moment when the fierce battle with the monsters took place, Ryu was in ambush, carrying with him a huge backpack with everything he needed. While in his thoughts, the main character noted that he was bored. Ryu's gaze fell on a butterfly flying past. Continuing to think, the main character said that despite the fact that he could not directly participate in the battle due to his low level, the payment would be divided equally. In the thick of the forest, a crowd of monsters watched Ryu sitting in the corner. The main character said that there was one problem in this situation. After pushing all the monsters away, the Devork Lord wondered why Ryu was smiling so much. Starting to beat his chest, the enraged monster declared that the main character was a weakling. Suddenly, he quickly flew to the ground. Seeing this, the monsters standing nearby fell into a stupor. With just a snap of his finger, Ryu struck down the Devork Lord with a small stone using a stone bullet. After he dealt with the monster leader, the system notified him that the Devork's level was too low, asking him to find a stronger monster. Thinking about this situation, the main character said that this monster had the highest level among the others, stating that he was not given a single experience point. Raising her hand, Yvonne informed Ryu that it was now safe there, asking him to begin packing. While in his thoughts, the main character noted that next time he needs to find someone stronger. In the vicinity of the forest, evening was gradually approaching. After defeating the monsters, Bjork's group began cutting up their corpses. Having pulled out an internal organ from the Dvork, happy Yvonne asked Ryu to look at it, adding that you could get 15x for it. Seeing the hearts pulled out of the monster's chest, the guys were very happy. Looking at the happy Rafael, Hubo said that they would definitely sell him at a high price. Turning to the side, the main character said that he would have vomited before. Avon noted that they can also sell fur. Lost in his thoughts, with unimaginable speed, Ryu put the extracted materials into jars. Reflecting on this, the main character said that in the mountains this had become a habit. Looking at the incredible speed of collection, Yvonne was taken aback. Ryu told her that he had been practicing this for more than 20 years. Horrified, she asked how old he was. In his thoughts, the main character said that he has not aged since he was 24. Taken aback, Ryu stated that he was 24, adding that he had a difficult childhood. With a smile on his face, the main character told the guys that 20 years ago he was kidnapped, saying that he didn't even remember the faces of his parents. Barely restrained tears appeared on the boys' faces. At that moment, Bjork assumed that it was for this reason that he had such a body. With tears in his eyes, Rafael was amazed at the secret of the main character, which he had kept all this time. Hugging a shocked Ryu, Bjork declared that he would no longer have to suffer, noting that they were now his family. Being shocked, the main character thought about how good these people were. Bowing his head, Ryu thanked the guys for helping him despite his low level. Putting his hand on the main character's shoulder, Bjork asked him not to worry about it, saying that the level was not that important. After which, Rafael stated that he, too, had the 25th level 5 years ago. Hearing this, Ryu fell into a stupor, asking if Bjork was now 25th. Laughing, Yvonne said that there, in the surrounding area, if you don't go to the dungeons, there are no strong monsters. Approaching the perplexed Ryu, Embo stated, unless it's a Dvork Lord, and we don't need to hunt stronger monsters. Smiling, the guys said that it was for this reason that they never go to dungeons. Hearing this, the main character fell into a genuine stupor. Getting up from the ground, Ryu stated that he would go do some sword training. Looking at the main character walking away into the distance, Bjork asked him not to overexert himself, noting that he should not go far as it was dangerous there. A worried Yvonne couldn't understand how anyone could think Ryu was an alien. Turning to the guys, Hubo said that he would go with him, adding that he did not feel comfortable sending him alone. Bjork noted that they do not yet know how many monsters remain in the area. Leaning on the fence, Krutas asked the main character how his training was going. Putting his hand to his face, he tried to call out to the missing Ryu. Running through the thick of the forest, the main character thought that he had no words. Rushing forward with all his might, the main character was amazed that there was not a single monster there that could give him experience points. Continuing to run, Ryu could not believe what he saw. His gaze fell on the harmless animals that were located throughout the area. In his thoughts, the main character hoped to meet a monster who was at least a level higher. Turning to Etha, Ryu asked if he was afraid to live in such a place. The dragon said that in the Saf Forest there are no monsters stronger than him. Having fallen to the ground, the main character noted that Ether's words turned out to be true. Closing his eyes, Ryu stated that even if he were on the same level as Ether, he still wouldn't get anything from him. The main character noted that he needed to return before it got completely dark. Within the forest, the sun gradually began to set. Suddenly, in the very thick of it, a blatant roar was heard. The image of an angry hellhound appeared in the main character's head. Pushing himself off the ground, Ryu stated that he was not as big as the hellhound. Having climbed to the top of the tree, he froze in one position. Rushing towards the place where the sound was made, the main character assumed that it was an ordinary monster. After landing, the area was shrouded in a cloud of dust. In his thoughts, Ryu couldn't figure out if he could level up if he caught the monster. Grabbing the sword, the main character ordered the monster to attack. Stopping, he stood before a completely naked girl. Seeing him, she fell into genuine shock. Stunned, Ryu asked her for forgiveness. Grabbing her hair, Addie's froze in one position. Her face was filled with bewilderment. Looking at her, a stunned Ryu assumed that it was a mage from Rada's group, wondering why she was naked. Having put the sword in its sheath, the main character noted that the magician's nudity was not important to him since there were no monsters in this area. Heading back into the depths of the forest, Ryu asked her forgiveness, saying that he was simply lost. In his thoughts, the main character wondered if the sound really came from there, noting that he needed to leave quickly, after which Addie's asked him to wait. With her hand on her side, the mage stated that Ryu looked suspicious. Turning around, the main character wondered if he was suspicious in this situation. Appearing before the shocked Ryu, Addy stated that this was no place for 5 levelers. In his thoughts, the indignant protagonist noted that this is not a bathhouse. Frozen in his thoughts, Ryu thought that he needed to find any monster. Turning to the magician, the main character said that he was just walking and heard a loud sound, suggesting that there was a large monster there. Hearing this, Addies fell into a stupor. Walking off into the distance, Ryu told him that a group was waiting for him, which is why he needed to return. Suddenly, huge flames appeared around the main character. Waving the magical artifact, Addies was amazed that Ryu went to look for this monster, ordering him to stand still. Pointing a magic staff at the main character, Man ordered him to respond quickly, adding that if he didn't, then. But suddenly, Ryu grabbed the resulting flame on the magic staff. Holding onto it with all his strength, the main character froze in one position. With an annoyed expression on his face, Ryu stated that he did not know what had gotten into Addies, noting that he now reminded him of Rod. The main character asked if, in the opinion of the magician, it was possible to treat a person this way because of his level. Taken aback, the magician said that she did not want to do this. Suddenly, the leader of Addies' group emerged from the bushes, carefully observing their conversation. The magician assumed that she was too worried. With his hands behind his back, the group leader grabbed his blades. Yelling at the top of his lungs, Rod turned to the stunned protagonist. Pointing his sword at Ryu, he declared that he had finally shown his true nature. Addies, standing nearby, reported that his hand hurt, asking why the main character didn't finally let her go. Crossing his swords, an enraged Rod called Ryu a pathetic worm, asking if he was ashamed of desecrating the ladies of their group. Hearing this, the main character fell into a stupor. Wary, Addies suggested that there had been a misunderstanding that would have been better avoided. Looking at Rod, standing in full combat readiness, the mage reported that he was strong among warrior magicians, adding that this stance was his special technique. The main character was surprised that Rod had to take such a ridiculous pose to fight. Addies reported that this is the weakness of all warrior magicians, noting that nothing would interfere with him. The sun behind the group leader gradually went into sunset. An enraged Rod said that he was asking for the last time. After which, he asked about the name of the one who is now in front of the 2 drawn blades. Standing next to the naked Addies, the main character asked her to get dressed. The magician said that it would be quick. The group leader's face was filled with indignation at this situation. Rod's body was covered in streams of mana reminiscent of lightning. Due to the powerful currents, the group leader's hair began to flutter in the wind. Rod said that he would show the difference in levels with Ryu. Rushing towards the main character, the group leader used a decapitating combo. While in his thoughts, Ryu noted that he didn't want this to take a bad turn. Rod's blade was overflowing with powerful mana. Bowing his head at the last moment, Ryu asked the group leader for forgiveness. The body of the attacking leader froze in one position. Due to the unimaginable power of Rada's technique, a strong explosion was heard in the thick of the forest. Ryu came back and sat down opposite the entrance to the house. Holding his face with his hands, the main character is lost in his thoughts. Standing next to him, Bjork said that in any case, the blame lay on Addies' shoulders. The annoyed protagonist said that he knew this, noting that he still could not forgive himself. With that said, Rafful asked Ryu to wait, adding that they needed to see how it would end. Yvonne, who interrupted their dialogue, opened the door and went out into the street. Hugging his worried sister, Bjork asked her to calm down, saying that she had done everything she could. After which, the main character was asked to quickly go into the house. Having gone inside, Ryu fell into a stupor from what he saw. While in his thoughts, the main character said that all the men nearby were silent. Ryu's face was filled with horror. Continuing to think, the protagonist noted that they understood that apart from Rod's direct responsibility for the incident, there was no other particular consolation. The leader of the group, lying on the bed, mysteriously turned into an old man. Looking at the leaving cart, Ryu said that in the morning Addies and Rod left for the city. Addies, sitting in the carriage, was reading some book. The main character stated that despite the fact that everything was revealed in the end, he did not understand why Addies hid the fact that he was a man. Ryu stated that he was never able to find the monster that caused the rumble. The main character noted that since then he had been with his group for 3 months, everything was gradually forgotten. The night sky was shrouded in many small stars. The plot takes us to the edge of the Sath Forest, to Bjork's camp. An excited Yvonne, looking at her sitting brother, asked if Rod alone kills monsters in the dungeon. Bjork reported that this is so. Turning to Imbo, the protagonist asked if there was anything serious about it. An alarmed Venetta said that a solo trip to the dungeon with the same level as Rod is tantamount to suicide. After which, Ryu asked if the leader of the group really had such a low level. While tightening the rope on a wooden post, Imbo said that this was not entirely true, adding that it was quite suitable for fighting local monsters. Venetta stated that if they attack, they do it only for the sake of survival, noting that there are almost no high-level ones among them. While in his thoughts, the main character suggested that Etha and the Devalk Lord were special cases. Pulling the rope even tighter, Ryu asked why the monsters were different in the dungeons. Embo said that dungeons have not existed since the creation of the world. An image of terrifying monsters that were located in the depths of the cave appeared in her head. Vanetta stated that they were created by the demon Omplas, and the monsters in them appear spontaneously. Embo noted that it is said that some have levels of 30s and above from the moment of birth. Leaning against a wooden pillar, Ryu wondered if level 30 was enough for him, declaring that he had to get into the dungeon, even if he had to go there secretly. Smiling, Bjork told him that monsters are not such a problem, saying that the greater danger is posed by aliens, of which there are still many left. Trying to keep the conversation going, Ryu stated that he hated the pathetic worms from another world. In his thoughts, the main character spoke about rumors that say that even the entrance to the dungeon is difficult to find, noting that these plans should be postponed for now. While spreading out his sleeping bag, Ryu asked if it was so dangerous, then what was the reason for Rod deciding to go there. Bjork, sitting on the floor, said that he needed an artifact that could cure almost any disease. Images of various magical artifacts appeared in Rafal's head. Bjork told Ryu that these are things that have magical powers and do not belong to this world, appearing along with the dungeons, saying that they are called artifacts. Rafal noted that NHI can have many forms and abilities. A part of the magical aura attached itself to Rod's naked body. Bjork told the main character about rumors that say that among them there is one who can heal any wound, adding that it is he who Rod needs. Turning on his side, Rockhall said that he was turning out the light in the tent. Worried, Yvonne stated that there were a lot of monsters outside the forest lately, hoping that everything would be okay. Lost in his thoughts, Ryu noted that with all the talk about artifacts, he now felt that among them there might be one that could send him home. It was deep night in the vastness of the forest where the guy's tent was located. In the depths of the night forest, the main character headed forward. Looking around, Ryu stated that despite a large number of inspections of this forest, he was still nervous, adding that there were no monsters comparable to him in strength. Raising his finger, Ryu noted that Etha lived somewhere around here, suggesting that he might know something. A monster's claw was visible near the main character's foot. With a long yawn, Ryu wondered where exactly the dragon's home was, noting that he had not been able to sleep properly for 3 months. Suddenly, a huge monster met on his way. Seeing him, the main character screamed in fear. Grasping the sword, he wondered what it was. The enraged monster, opening its mouth, let out a terrifying roar. The plot introduced us to Thethiro, whose level was 31. Due to the chitin covering his entire body, piercing and cutting attacks with melee weapons were useless, and he also had a weakness to magic, mainly lives in dungeons. Wary, the main character could not understand what the monster from the dungeon was doing in the forest. In his thoughts, Ryu was surprised by the monster's resistance to melee attacks. Looking at the crowd of angry monsters, the main character noted that this was not good for him. Having surrounded Ryu from all sides, one of the monsters assumed that he was a magician. Rising on its hind legs, the monster declared that this was not so, adding that the main character was holding a stupid knife in his hands. Smirking, the monster declared that his knife was useless. Suddenly, with lightning speed, Ryu cut one of the monsters into 2 parts. Looking at the bloody corpse of the monster, the main character declared that he no longer believed these inscriptions. Horrified, the monster fell into a stupor. Encouraged, he said that he understood. The monster assumed it was magic in the form of a knife. The monster standing next to him said that this was not so, adding that their dead brothers were foolish. Beside himself with rage, the monster declared that a knife would not pierce their shell, adding that they eat those who have a knife. While killing his brother, the main character noted that the monster was here alone. The frightened monster, running away as fast as he could, said that he needed to go underground. Immediately catching up with him, Ryu asked where he was going, after which, the stunned monster climbed under a bush. Having started to dig the ground, he said that he needed to do it as quickly as possible. Leaning towards him, the main character said that he would go with him. Next, the main character grabbed the root of the plant under which the monster was digging, after which, he raised a huge plant above his head. Looking at the place where the huge plant was located, Ryu fell into a stupor. Before his eyes, the stunned monster pulled its paws towards the appeared portal. A powerful stream of mana emanated from the portal that appeared. While in his thoughts, the main character noted that mana was felt in the air. The plot tells us that the dungeon is located in the Ifan Valley. Completely bewildered, the main character could not believe that there was a portal that led to the dungeon. Grabbing his sword, the main character reported about dungeons being crowded out by monsters and about land monsters that were migrating ever closer to people's homes. Squatting down, Ryu thought about the doors to the dungeon that appeared just like that. Turning to the monster, the main character asked who opened this portal. The frightened monster said that he did not know this, adding that they did not possess magic. With a look of disbelief, Ryu asked if the monster was saying that he didn't know this. Looking at the stunned monster, the main character noted that he would have let him go if he had answered, saying that now he was forced to kill him. after which Ryu raised his weapon above his head. The shocked monster asked not to do this, saying that no one could go back in because of his orders. Entering the portal, the main character thought that he did not know who the monster was talking about. Smirking, Ryu stated that he didn't see anything. Almost completely immersed in the portal, the protagonist noted that no one could enter, suggesting that if no one told him, then he would not know about it. Continuing to think, he declared that he must get there unnoticed. Looking at how the main character was completely immersed in the portal leading to the dungeon, the monster fell into a stupor. Having begun to dig in the side of the portal, the monster declared that he had not seen anything. The monster's huge claw was pointed towards the guy's face. Fighting off the enraged monster, the girl ordered him not to approach. Turning to Alice, the guy asked her to hold out a little longer. Preparing his foot to strike, he told the monster that he was here. With unimaginable power, hitting the monster, the guy ordered him to die. After his attack, the monster let out an enraged scream. In his thoughts, the guy noted that attacks did not affect him. Holding an axe in his hands, he was amazed that even this weapon could not take him. The guy believed that he only had magic left. Suddenly, an angry monster pierced Alice's leg. Taking a magical staff in her hands, she turned to the light, which is like the sun, asking it to illuminate the darkness and, like lightning, to strike enemies. Pointing her staff towards the stunned monster, Alice used a flash. Holding his face, the guy noted that the spell had affected him too, adding that despite this, one of his eyes could see. Leaning against the stone wall, he asked Ranner to use the healing. Taken aback, he again tried to call out to Ranner. At that moment, a monster bit into the neck of his barely breathing partner. Throwing him against the wall, he ordered the magician to die. The guy, who could barely see, froze in one position. Suddenly, a lot of blood splashes appeared in front of his face. With lightning speed, the mysterious stranger struck down a group of angry monsters. Looking at the corpse of the monster, the guy assumed that he had decapitated him with one blow. While in complete shock, he noted that it was not one blow. A memory of how he was trying to break through the powerful armor of the monster surfaced in his head. The guy said that Tithethero defends himself with his forelimbs if an opponent attacks his head, adding that there is a narrow gap on the neck, which is covered with chitinous plates and it is very difficult to hit it. With unimaginable speed, Rod suddenly appeared and decapitated the monster standing next to him. The guy said that in order for Tachiro to put out his claws and expose his neck, Rod first hits the monster in the groin. Looking at the savior's back, he noted that only a warrior magician who practices fighting with two swords is capable of this. Turning around, Rod asked if they were from the Onpros Hunter Guild. The guy assumed that he was Rod, a warrior mage. Looking at the joyful guy, the group leader asked if he knew him. Raising his axe in front of him, he noted that a few months ago, Rod began defending the dungeon alone, asking if this was so. Looking at the dumbfounded leader of the group, the guy praised him for this. 70 days ago, Rod accidentally fell into a dungeon and has not been able to get out since then. Holding a glass of alcohol in his hands, he leaned his elbows on the table. At that moment, Rod was thinking about his memories in which he drank alcohol in the guild. After which, he woke up in the vastness of the dungeon, holding a human skeleton next to him. Continuing to think, he noted that having sobered up, he realized that he was in a dungeon, adding that he had no idea how he ended up here. Rod said that until that moment he had not seen people, saying that he had not found a way out. With a perplexed look, the guy asked why he decided to go into the dungeon alone. With tears in his eyes, Rod said that he did not know this. In his thoughts, he was extremely glad that now he would be able to get out. Looking at Alice sitting next to her, Rod assumed that she was injured. Alice heard that he was looking for a healing artifact. Thinking about the words spoken to her, Rod could not understand what she was talking about. Alice stated that stopping the bleeding would be enough. Seeing the potion that Rod uses, the guy said that they also use such potions. After which, he stated that it was a top-level potion that was very difficult to find. Surprised, Alice noted that this should not be done, even if she is a girl. Continuing the treatment, Rod said that there was nothing wrong with it. Next, she wondered why this drug was so expensive. With a serious expression on his face, Rod said that it was no use for his wounds anyway. While in his thoughts, he noted that it would be much more difficult to get out of there wounded. Rod said that the price in this situation was not important, considering the main thing that it would be useful. Wary, Alice said that she did not want to be in his debt. Having set off, Rod reported that she had done a good job, adding that with such a wound it was impossible to continue the cleanup and that they needed to get out. Frustrated, Alice was amazed that they had come so far, and now because of her they had to give up everything halfway. Getting to her feet, she declared that she was also a hunter, asking Rod not to look down on her. Taken aback, the guy tried to contact the group leader. At that moment, Rod asked him not to pay attention to it, noting that it was nothing special. Baring his teeth, Rod asked them to think only about how to quickly get out of here. All his thoughts were connected with his stomach. The leader of the group said that he would not shock for a long time. Rod had inflammation of the colon. The excited guys froze in one position. While in his thoughts, the guy was amazed that even if Rod's wound couldn't be cured with a top-class potion, he did so much for the sake of strangers. Suddenly, a powerful earthquake began in the dungeon. The stunned guy suggested that it was an earthquake. Alice, standing nearby, said that this was not so since the dungeon was in another dimension, adding that there could be no earthquakes here. Taking a fighting stance, Rod ordered the guys to quickly hide in a side passage. In his thoughts, he was sure that he should not lose face in front of the girl, even if he died. Alarmed, Alice asked if he had heard a rumble, suggesting that there might be a whole horde of monsters there. She asked how Rod could manage there alone, after which, the angry leader of the group ordered this to be done quickly. Looking at the depths of the dungeon, from which terrible sounds emanated, Rod assumed that they were approaching. While in the guy's arms, Alice asked him to wait. Beside herself with rage, she asked what he was doing. With tears in his eyes, the guy said that they were just ballast for Rod. Looking at the guys leaving into the distance, the leader of the group fell into a stupor. At that moment, Rod could not understand where the guy ran. Looking at the underground passage from which the roar came, the group leader became enraged, adding that on the other hand, this was a great chance to level up. A crowd of angry monsters rushed towards the exit. Continuing to think, Rod noted that he did not think that there were more than 2 or 3 of them there. With an unimaginable scream, the leader of the group tried to escape from the crowd of monsters. The frightened monsters reported the danger that awaited them. A horde of monsters headed into one of the passages of the dungeon. Seeing this, Rod fell into a stupor, after which, he wondered what exactly scared them. The story takes us to a place in another part of the dungeon. Many corpses of monsters lay at the entrance to the portal. With lightning speed, the main character destroyed them one by one. An annoyed Ryu noted that his expectations were not met, adding that the experience points were like a cat crying. Continuing to destroy the monsters, the main character stated that due to the narrow passage he could not swing normally, glad that he could not control his strength. Approaching the leader, the monsters reported the approach of a magical sword. The angry leader, calling them not smart, noted that he told them to run away. One of the monsters said that they were brave. Inspired, the leader declared that the main character would not go further. Having destroyed the wall that appeared in front of his face, Ryu noted that he received a little more points. Standing on a stone hill, the main character said that he no longer sees monsters. Suddenly, his gaze fell on a certain magical artifact, the glare of which was reflected on his face. A powerful stream of bright aura formed around the magical artifact. The system reported that in front of us was a flame bracelet called a magic heart. Putting his hand to his chin, the protagonist wondered if such things should not be guarded by bosses. At that moment, near Ryu lay the head of King Thathir, whose level was equal to 40. Lost in his thoughts, the main character noted that if he takes the artifact, then the monsters will no longer appear, suggesting that in this case he will not be able to gain experience points, stating that there is no one there except Thathirs. Ryu believed that the boss could be somewhere in that area, reporting that in any case, all the options were not very good. Looking at the magical artifact, he froze in one position. The system informed the main character that if the owner can throw fireballs, then he will also receive the spontaneously combustible ball ability, adding that the artifact has 30 charges left. With a brutal expression on his face, Ryu stated that flames could come out of his hand using a masculine style. Wary, the main character wondered if there was anyone in the dungeon. Concentrating, Ryu took a fighting stance. His face was filled with confidence. Putting his hands forward, the main character tried to use a fireball. Lost in thought, Ryu wondered if monsters kept appearing in dungeons endlessly. A monster embryo was born in one of the cocoons. The main character noted that survivors in the dungeons told him that monsters do not reproduce, but simply appear in a certain place. Raising his head, Ryu discovered that there were many eggs hanging on the ceiling, containing monsters. The main character said that the source of energy for this monster factory is the magic heart located in the very depths of the dungeon. Putting his hands behind his back, Ryu again prepared to create the technique. The main character noted that it looks like an ordinary thing. Ryu's gaze was filled with confidence. The main character stated that that thing could give its owner incredible power. Raising his hands again, Ryu cast a fireball spell. The main character noted that it is also called an artifact. Concentrating, Ryu froze in one position. In his thoughts, he assumed that this thing had broken. The magical artifact on Ryu's hand did not emit any glow. The system notified the main character that the minimum level for activation was 31. Ryu said that compared to ordinary pieces of equipment, artifacts have restrictions on the level of the owner. Having taken off the magical device, the main character declared that this thing was useless to him. Ryu noted that if the potential owner was able to get to the artifact, then there should be no problems with the level. Looking at the magic device, the main character is lost in thought. Ryu said that for a hunter to find an artifact is glory and honor, adding that they can be sold at a high price. The main character suggested that he should wait until he gained enough experience points, after which he wondered whether he should sell it. Ryu thought it would look strange if someone like him tried to sell such an artifact, noting that its level was a big problem. Jumping up, the main character began to scream loudly. Ryu was amazed that there weren't many hunters left alive who had the artifacts. Hanging in the air, the main character noted that the room began to move. Grabbing the sword, he assumed that this happened because of resentment for all the suffering he had endured and the self-confidence associated with the extraction of the legendary artifact. A passage appeared in front of Ryu's face, leading into the very depths of the dungeon. The main character stated that a mysterious voice in the darkness whispers to them that the hell unfolding before their eyes is an opportunity. A little taken aback, Ryu assumed that this was the boss's room. One of the huge doors leading to the boss's room opened slightly. Entering the room, the main character was glad that it was very light there. Ryu believed that he needed to return quickly before Bjork and the guys woke up. A long corridor appeared in front of the main character, at the end of which there was a mysterious magical artifact. Ryu was sure that he needed to deal with the boss as quickly as possible. Heading to the magical artifact, the main character wondered where all the monsters had gone, assuming that this was the most important place in the dungeon. Turning to the hidden monsters, Ryu asked if he could just take the dungeon heart and leave. Taking hold of the magical artifact, the main character said that if he pulled it out, the dungeon would disappear. Ryu shouted that it was too easy, adding that it was outright theft. Suddenly, tentacles grabbed the hand of the screaming protagonist. Seeing this, Ryu fell into a stupor. Turning to him, the huge eye was glad that the main character had finally arrived. From a huge angry monster hanging in the air, many tentacles came out and attacked the main character. The plot showed us the boss of the dungeon, which was called the Tentacle Spectator, whose level was equal to 45. Looking at him, Ryu was sure that he would definitely drop a lot of experience points. The protagonist's arms and legs were shackled by the boss's tentacles. While in his thoughts, Ryu noted that he could not say that he was completely immobilized, adding that his legs and arms were being squeezed quite strongly. Towering over the main character, the dungeon boss froze in one position. Continuing to think, the main character said that despite the fact that he had not attacked him yet. Suddenly, Rod suddenly appeared and announced that he had finally escaped. Seeing this, Ryu was shocked. Looking at the main character, the group leader fell into a stupor. In complete despair, Ryu declared that this was a complete failure. The excited main character thought that he had been discovered. After which, Ryu tried to tell him something. Holding his head, Rod froze in one position. Taking hold of his blade, the group leader was amazed that things had changed so quickly, calling the situation ridiculous. Looking at him, the main character could not understand what happened to him, noting that he was scared. Smirking, Rod asked if the monster thought he didn't understand. The group leader was sure that he was simply using his fears and his recent trauma by visualizing them. Looking at the stunned protagonist, he called him disgusting. Rod stated that there was no point in this appearance, noting that Ryu simply could not be here. With an evil grin on his face, the protagonist noted that Rod was very quick to reveal him, congratulating him on this. Rushing towards Ryu, the group leader ordered him to die, adding that he would level him to the ground. Suddenly, a paw began to form from the body of the dungeon boss. Looking at the enraged monster, the protagonist reported that it could not look in all directions at once, suggesting that it could not attack and defend itself at the same time. Ryu noted that along with his fast and strong tentacles, he has the monocular vision of a predator. Taking out his blades, Rod prepared for the duel. Suddenly, the boss's tentacles appeared behind the group leader. With lightning speed, the main character prevented the monster's attack. Suddenly, Ryu fell into a stupor. Furious, Rod declared that it was an impossible attack. The body of the main character was visible in the mouth of the dungeon boss. Pushing himself away, Ryu was finally able to escape from his bonds. Hanging in the air, the main character noted that a little more and he could have torn his trouser leg. Landing on the ground, Ryu wondered if he was too weak for the monster. The angry Rod continued to swing his sword near the protagonist's face. Stretching out a tentacle, the dungeon boss tried to pull Ryu towards him. With unimaginable power, the main character struck the monster. Continuing to swing his sword, Rod told him to beg for mercy. Trying to hit the main character with a blade, the leader of the group said that because of him he had lost everything. While in his thoughts, Ryu noted that Rod had just said that he was not real, suggesting that he had gone crazy. Tears flowed from the angry dungeon boss's eyes. With colossal power, Ryu pushed the monster away, causing it to begin jumping off the stone pillars around the room. An angry Rod stated that because of him, he lost his reputation in the guild as well as his team. With the help of the dungeon boss's tentacles, the main character managed to block the group leader's attack. Beside himself with rage, Rod screamed that he was the demon who brought him to such a state. Looking at the shocked Ryu, he again ordered him to die. The veins on the group leader's face bulged with tension. The cries of death continued from his mouth. Rod's facial expression resembled that of an enraged monster. Calling Ryu human, Rod again ordered him to die. Seeing how the leader of the group was grabbed by the boss of the dungeon, the main character fell into a stupor. Suddenly, the monster's tentacles dragged him to an unknown direction. Ryu suggested that it looked like someone was controlling Rod, squeezing the body of the exhausted group leader. The dungeon boss called the protagonist a daring man. He couldn't understand how Ryu dared to play with him like some kind of meat. Controlling the body of the group leader, the monster stated that because of him the main character would not dare to attack him, suggesting that he was his comrade. Huge spikes appeared from the dungeon boss's tentacles. Raising Rod's body up, the monster declared that there is no death more terrible than at the hands of a close friend. Grasping his weapon with both hands, the main character turned to the dungeon boss. With a serious expression on his face, Ryu said that he only needed experience points from him. Hearing this, the monster fell into a stupor. Waving his tentacles, he suggested to Ryu that he try something. Squeezing Rod's body, the dungeon boss stated that he was going to trample the main character into the dirt, adding that he would help him with this. The group leader's body gradually began to become covered with the monster's tentacles. The dungeon boss said that after they both died, he would devour their bodies. Forming a fist with its tentacles on Rod's body, the monster declared that Ryu would be the first course, after which, the zombified leader of the group rushed towards the main character. The tentacles on the dungeon boss's body fluttered in different directions. Tentacles are known for their agility, even among dungeon bosses. Rod's body, under the control of the monster, turned purple. Until they land their killing blows, with their intelligence they can easily outwit a human. The dungeon boss's many tentacles enveloped Rod's hands. They take group members hostage and infect them with parasites. The group leader's hand became covered with a monster shell. With a distraught look, Rod rushed towards the main character. History told us that after this, the parasites reincarnated them into powerful monsters. Wary, the monster's gaze froze in one position. In his thoughts, he noted that it didn't matter to him how strong Ryu was since he was still human. Rod's hand quickly moved towards the protagonist's face. The dungeon boss believed that it didn't matter how hard Ryu acted because he would never kill his comrade. Swinging, Rod tried to strike the main character. Continuing to think, the monster noted that he had missed the mark. Ryu's sword is stuck in the dungeon floor. Looking at this, the dungeon boss wondered when he had time to strike. Scattering stones were visible at the scene of the fight. Looking at the battlefield, the dungeon boss guessed that his vision was split. Holding his head, Ryu wondered if this was serious. Having cut the dungeon boss into two parts, the main character could not believe that it was the 45th level. The defeated monster couldn't believe what he saw, wondering how Ryu did it. Looking at the warming up protagonist, the monster asked if he wanted to say that even the simple pressure of swinging his sword was so powerful. Frustrated, Ryu thought about how even the management didn't show up, suggesting that the dungeon boss was too weak. The shocked monster called the main character not human. Lying on the floor, the dungeon boss noted that there was no point in opening a portal if such a monster existed. Walking away into the distance, the main character suggested that he could only rely on the monsters of the Sappa Forest. The monster stated that before Ryu gets the core and the dungeon disappears, he must report to him about this. After which, a small monster crawled out of the dungeon boss's eye. Suddenly, his body shrank violently. With a lightning attack, Ryu destroyed it, assuming it was a beetle. The annoyed protagonist said that he needed to return. Suddenly, his face was enveloped in genuine shock. Sitting down on the floor, Ryu was amazed at the number, which was equal to 545 billion. In the morning sky, clouds were occasionally visible floating into the distance. Standing on the street, Bjork tensed the muscles of his arm. Concentrating, he froze in one position. Looking around the surroundings, Raphael considered the morning wonderful and very powerful. Standing at the exit of the tent, Yvonne asked if he had seen the main character. Continuing his warm-up, Bjork stated that he had not seen him. Embo, standing nearby, assumed that he had gone to the restroom. Worried, Raphael said that this would have been possible if his weapon had not gone missing. An image of an angry monster appeared in her head. Yvonne assumed that Ryu went into the forest and suddenly, the main character appeared behind her, causing her to scream. Raising her finger, Raphael stated that he made her worry by asking if something was wrong with him. Taken aback, the main character said that everything was fine. A memory of his battle with the dungeon boss popped into his head. The actions take us back a couple of minutes. An excited Ryu was shocked that he was given 100,000 points. The system notified him that due to defeating the monster, he was assigned 113,340 points. In complete shock, the protagonist noted that the huge hellhound only gave him 258 experience points, adding that he needed 1,100 points to increase his level from 4 to 5. Overjoyed, Ryu guessed that he should get 2,200 points for the 6th level. After which, the main character wondered if he received 140,000 points, then what level is he at now? Seeing something, Ryu was shocked. The system reported that for the transition he needed 54,581,862,560 points. Genuine shock was visible on the protagonist's face. Ryu asked a question that affected the number of points to move to the next level. With an excited face, he left the expanses of the dungeon. With a perplexed look, the main character entered the portal. Coming out, his face was still filled with shock. Heading back to camp with the loot, Ryu's face was still shrouded in shock. With a look full of despair, he began to eat lunch. Wary, Bjork assumed that something had happened to the main character. While outside the camp, Ryu declared that he had had enough. Gradually, evening came on the street. Holding a sleeping bag in his hands, the main character tried in every possible way to help the guys. While in his thoughts, the main character said that a week had passed since that moment, adding that he had not been able to find a single monster outside the sought forest. The carriage containing Ryu arrived at the city gates. Continuing to think, the main character stated that after that they returned to Onpros earlier than they thought. The old man sitting on the horse said that this cart was intended for the Onpros Hunters Guild. Approaching the cart, the knight asked him to provide a pass, noting that without it they would not be able to enter. Indignant, the elder stated that he worked there even when his father was not there. Taken aback, the knight apologized, saying that this was the law. Surprised, Ryu asked if they could just show the guild emblem, and Bo completely agreed with his judgment. Leaning against the base of the cart, Bjork asked if something had happened, noting that they were simply on a quest and had been gone for 3 months. After which, the knight turned to Captain Buckman. Taking off his helmet, he announced that he was Gorman. Delighted, Bjork noted that they had not seen each other for a long time, asking what was going on here. An annoyed Gorman asked if the captain had heard the news, saying that the Hunters Guild had cancelled all missions outside the city 5 days ago. Gray clouds formed over the city sky. The knight told him that the Ipen dungeon was closed. The main character's face showed great excitement. As Ryu headed towards the guild, he thought about the bad atmosphere hanging in the air. Fog gradually began to appear in the city. Continuing to think, the main character wondered if they should celebrate that the dungeon was closed. Looking around the city area, Ryu noted that he did not see a single soul. While in his thoughts, the main character said that despite this, he was able to use the porta since he did not take the dungeon core. After which, he assumed that someone else had taken the core and closed the dungeon. Putting his hand to his face, Ryu asked who the guys thought was the one who closed the dungeon. Hubo walking next to him said that they didn't know why the atmosphere on the street was like this. An excited Krutus said that for a hunter, closing the dungeon is an incredible achievement. Hubo noted that only an alien would hide this fact. Wary, Imbo reported that this was not the only problem. An image of a monster appeared in her head, which put many people in a loop. At that moment, Vanetta told him about the Inquisitor. She said that he, sent by the church to find and execute the alien, would catch people and torture them until they repented, adding that this would happen because they could not distinguish aliens from the indigenous inhabitants of this world. Imbo believed that this was the reason why they suspected anyone whose level was above level 20. Completely horrified by what he heard, the main character was amazed at the absurd standards. Ryu noted that Buckman and Amber were above level 20. Hubo stated that this is why most of the hunters left the city. Being in complete despair, the main character was sure that the aliens would never be welcome. With a serious expression on his face, Bjork said that nothing is clear right now, after which, he suggested that they simply finish their business. Holding a bag of magical artifacts in his hands, Rafael noted that they had been sleeping outside for a week and should receive their rewards. Next, Bjork suggested that the guys go to the guild and hand over all the demonic stones. Taking a look at the protagonist's huge backpack, Rafael said that they would also sell raw materials from the monsters from his bag. After which, he will invite the guys to celebrate the completion of Ryu's quest. The protagonist's face was filled with surprise. Raising his finger, Bjork asked Imbo to go with the main character to the Baltan store. Turning to him, Vanetta asked if she planned to go to the guild to sell stones. Averting his gaze, Ryu stated that he knew where the store was, noting that he could go there himself. Running towards the store, the main character asked the guys to go to the guild. Taken aback, Imbo said that he didn't even know the prices. Smiling, Bjork felt that they didn't have to say it, since Ryu could find out for himself. Smirking, Ryu stated that all of this was priceless. His gaze fell on the store that appeared on his way. The stunned protagonist was amazed that the owner could not buy it. The man said that in this situation he could not do anything, adding that despite the fact that Buckman is his regular supplier and buyer. Raising his finger, the man noted that he would be an accomplice if he bought and sold any of this, adding that this city flourished only thanks to the dungeon. He was sure that no one would be left here without him, talking about aliens with the Inquisitor. The man wondered who he would sell all this to. Stunned, Ryu asked if the man could do something about it, at least this time. Having picked up one of the pieces of raw material, the main character again tried to sell him at least something. Indignant, the man asked if he was deaf. Raising a finger, he stated that he did not care about the price of the Inquisitor. Suddenly, a stranger appeared in front of them, whose body was shrouded in a cloak. Raising his hand, he asked him to continue, noting that he would wait his turn. Seeing him, the man fell into a stupor. He was amazed that the Inquisitor appeared before him, after which, the stranger thanked him for introducing him. Wary, the main character was surprised that the Inquisitor was in front of him. Trying to find out its characteristics, the system failed in every possible way. The stranger stated that the man had some pretty high-quality products. Then, with lightning speed, he rushed towards Ryo. Approaching him, he asked if something had happened, suggesting that the protagonist could not see his level. A man in a mask and cloak raised his palm in invitation, saying that he would wait his turn since he arrived later. The appearance of the Inquisitor shocked those present. Eric frowned thoughtfully, surprised that the man was an Inquisitor. While the mysterious stranger praised the quality products, Eric tried to find out his level, but to no avail. The man, apparently, noticed Eric's analyzing gaze and approached him so sharply that the young man was stunned. The masked man scoffed at Eric's inability to see his level while the black-haired youth read on the information board that the stranger's skills were immeasurable. Eric pretended not to understand what the man was talking about, silently noting his incredible speed. The masked man began to non-stop bombard Eric with a variety of questions, to which the young man answered quickly and without hesitation. Hearing that the irreligious Eric is an orphan from the wilderness, but already a hunter who walks along the street, the stranger became suspicious of the alien nature of the young man. Eric tried to hide his fear and hastened to answer that the man had mistaken himself, and the guy had become a hunter only recently. The man, still overcome by doubts, suddenly roughly thrust a flat, rectangular-shaped golden object into Eric's hands. The stranger wanted to check the young man's level, but fell silent for a second when he saw how low Eric's level was. The man even lifted his mask, looking at the golden object in his hand with a stunned face, while Eric let out a sigh of relief and changed the topic of conversation. The old man in round glasses noted how amazing the young man was that he behaved this way in the presence of the Inquisitor. The old man looked at the items with sadness and concluded that he would not be able to buy them, because then there would be no one to sell them to. As the Inquisitor walked away, Eric allowed horror to appear on his face, thinking that his heart was about to explode. The young man's thoughts about the power of the masked stranger were interrupted by an old man who asked if one of the goods was for sale. The elderly man placed a golden artifact in the form of a bracelet on his palm. Eric immediately raised his hand, explaining to the buyer that this item was not for sale. Due to careless movements, the young man touched the artifact and knocked it out of the hands of the stunned old man. The bracelet fell to the floor and rolled towards the feet of the masked man as Eric and the old man looked on, amazed. Eric's hand froze in the air, as did he, while the stranger picked up the artifact. A chuckle escaped the Inquisitor's lips. Rising, the man asked where the level 5 hunter received the artifact. While the old man hurried away, Eric feverishly wondered whether he should deny everything. The Inquisitor thought that the 5 level would not go into the dungeon. The man placed the artifact in the hands of the frightened Eric, telling the young man to keep this valuable thing. The young man froze in horror when the Inquisitor approached and said that he would tell an instructive story to a novice hunter. This happened 15 years ago, when a married couple lived in a small village in the east, and the husband in this family was a veteran hunter. He wasn't a leader, but he attracted people to him when his group went on a quest as usual. When he was afraid of the helpless-looking monster, the group members did not understand why the strongest of them behaved this way. When the group members pressed him, he shouted that this monster had a level above 800. When they didn't believe him, he told them the truth that he was an alien and could see everyone's level. However, the monster discovered them. The man was left to fight the monster alone to buy time for the other members of the group. Placing his hand on Eric's shoulder, the Inquisitor asked the young man who, in his opinion, died in this story. When the tense hunter asked if it was an alien who had revealed himself, the stranger answered in the negative. He explained that everyone involved died except that man and the leader of the group. The leader was released when he told the Inquisitor the truth, and the other members died during the investigation as accomplices of the criminal. Miraculously, the surviving Earthling returned home. However, the villagers, having learned about the rumors, burned his house, and there was no one left who would be glad to see him. He destroyed all the inhabitants and escaped. The Inquisitor concluded that anyone who contacted the alien was doomed, but still did not believe that the 5-level youth could have any sin. When a puzzled Eric asked why the masked man told him this story, he began to think about using the naive rookie hunter to sell the artifact. The Inquisitor concluded that this was a common occurrence and promised Eric to protect him as best he could. The stranger asked which group the young man belonged to. Suddenly, Eric's eyes lit up with a scarlet light, and he attacked the Inquisitor from behind, swinging his hand clenched into a fist. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of the man. Eric's fist slammed into the head of Addis, who apologized to the Inquisitor in an elegant bow. The red-haired youth expressed his desire to clarify the situation with a slight smile. Addis glared angrily at Eric, who was stunned by the magician's unexpected appearance. Addis yelled at Eric, outraged that this useless buffoon couldn't even cope with a normal routine. When Addis began to say that he should not have trusted the Eric artifact, he fell into complete bewilderment. While Addis sternly reprimanded the frightened young man, the Inquisitor carefully asked the magician who he was. When Addis' minister turned around to introduce himself, a friendly smile lit up his face. The young man showed a gold badge, indicating that he was the 37th head of the Bannister family. The Inquisitor, looking at the emblem, concluded that the rumors that the family of these dragon hunters had lost their place were false. Addis hid the emblem in his bosom, and the masked man asked what the magician had to do with the hunter. Eric's face looked stupid and bewildered, while Addis confidently said that he hired this recently arrived dumb worker a few days ago. Eric barely understood the story that Addis was making up, shamelessly telling the Inquisitor a lie that the magician had ordered the hunter to bring an artifact for examination. Deciding that he needed to live up to history, Eric called Addis, addressing him as a master. Citing being busy with research, Addis and Eric turned around and said goodbye to the man. When Eric whispered words of gratitude to his comrade, he told the young man to never behave like that anywhere. The hunter asked if he was suspicious because he had an artifact, to which he heard an identical question from the magician mentioning the situation in the forest. The Inquisitor silently watched the conversation between the two young men. They turned around when the man suddenly asked about the abilities of this artifact. At one point, Eric began to talk about a fireball and Addis about an electric one. Both were frozen in horror, staring at each other. The Inquisitor apologized while preparing to do something. He ordered the young men to remain where they were as a strong wind rose around them. Eric recalled his first day in Bjork's group. The tree ogre roared deafeningly. Several of the monster's fangs came off with a splash of blood. An aggressive phoenix flew towards Eric, preparing to grab him with its clawed paws. Eric struck the creature, sending white feathers flying into the air. The young man was thinking about why the monsters were so small here, because he had finally gotten out of the mountains after so much suffering. Eric was furious, thinking that even the hellhounds were better than this garbage, which gave him no experience points. Dealing with yet another enemy, Eric recalled with indignation that he could have gotten at least one experience point from the hellhounds. Ruthlessly crushing his enemies, the young man only wanted to raise his level. Pools of blood spread under his feet. Suddenly Eric froze when he heard something that sounded like his new name. The young man realized that someone had been calling him all this time. It was Bjork, politely offering Eric a taste of the newcomer's welcome dish. As soon as the man made an unflattering comment about the food, a huge pan suddenly dropped onto the table and the cook's indignant exclamations were heard. It was Imbo, who looked at Eric with suspicion and said that she, unlike Bjork, had not yet recognized the newcomer. While Eric looked thoughtfully at the side dish, Hubo burst out laughing, asking how long the newcomer would last here. Eric remembered the taste of tough hellhound meat, thinking that Imbo's dish couldn't be worse. The young man thought about how long it had been since he had eaten anything other than this meat and used cutlery. Eric remembered how he once sat alone by a kind of fire on which a large piece of meat was roasting. But now the young man was not alone and ate surrounded by his new company. Suddenly everyone, even Imbo, who was forcibly shoving the side dish into Bjork with spoons, turned around in surprise and froze. With a red nose and a smile, Eric asked for more. Shouts were heard from the tent that the young man should not force himself to eat this because it was all for the sake of a joke. Eric felt that he had emerged from the stone mountains. In reality, the Inquisitor was still standing in front of Eric. Raising a wind that was more like a small hurricane, the man asked Eric and Addis to go with him. When Eric asked if this wind was caused by magic, Addis replied that he could not sense mana. The red-haired young man with a concentrated face concluded that this wind was healing, and the Inquisitor was most likely a high-level spiritual magician. Hearing these words, Eric frowned at the thought that the fight with this man would not be easy. When Davy thought that the fight would seriously reveal his true nature, the Inquisitor snapped his finger and said that the two hunters need not worry. The man said that even with their arms and legs cut off, the two would not die while they were inside. He added coldly that he wanted them to follow him on their own feet. Eric came to the conclusion that there was no other way out and asked if the Inquisitor was looking for the one who closed the dungeon. The young man approached the man and wanted to make sure that he would not harm anyone if Eric found this man, and the Inquisitor readily agreed. Then the young man declared with determination that it was he who closed the dungeon. Suddenly, in the distance, someone shouted, standing on a carriage. Alice even covered her face with a witch's hat so as not to see Rod beaming with pride, but the coachman was amazed at how he was able to close the dungeon alone. Rod said that he defeated the boss unconsciously and successfully closed the dungeon, but after that they were left to starve on the open plain. When the man and boy expressed their relief at being rescued, Alice irritably reminded them that she was the one who found them. Rod beamed as he confidently announced that his own legend began now. The guards stopped the carriage, tied Rod's hands, and demanded that he climb into the vehicle. Eric was silently surprised that Rod closed the dungeon while the two Inquisitors looked at the documents and came to the conclusion that for now they would put the man in a cell. Eric remembered what kind of monster Rod had almost turned into, and Addis watched the situation with a shocked face. The Inquisitor bowed, apologizing on behalf of the Church of Darkness, and Addis asked what would happen to Rod. The Inquisitor said that the man would be sent to prison, the location of which was classified, and his affairs would be investigated. Addis smiled with relief when he heard the words that Rod would be released if no problems were found after checking his birth certificate. When a perplexed Eric asked about the vehicle, Addis explained that it was a machine powered by demon stones. Suddenly, the Inquisitor pulled back the curtain in the car and called Eric to him, remembering the situation with the unsuccessful sale of his things. The Inquisitor decided to give the young man a promissory note in the name of Addis, so that later the real recipient, that is, Eric, would sign. The young man doubted this proposal, remembering how his mother taught him not to sign without thinking. Eric picked up the pen and asked if they would force him to join the church after this, but the Inquisitor assured that they did not use such dirty methods. Eric began to sign. The Inquisitor, whose emotions were impossible to read behind the mask, looked attentively at the young man. Eric clenched the piece of paper in his fist as the car with the Inquisitor inside pulled away. Addis exhaled, reassured that no one was hurt, but Eric remained silent. Then Addis called him worriedly. The young man did not turn around, but asked the magician for some favor. Hunting Guild Onpros. A blonde woman with bangs in a uniform bowed and apologized. The girl buried her face guiltily in the table, but Bjork told her that it was not her fault that the guildmaster ran away because everyone was leaving in a hurry, like crazy. When Imbo approached Avon and Hubo, who were sitting at a round table, the healer asked the spearwoman if she was able to sell the demon stones. Imbo placed 5 silver coins on the table, crossing her arms and closing her eyes dejectedly. When the girl explained that this was all the money the guild had, Hubo and Yvonne opened their mouths in shock. A vein appeared on Imbo's forehead in anger as she bowed her head and hissed that she would grind the guildmaster, who ran away with all the guild's money, into powder. When Bjork offered the girl free beer with a wide smile, she yelled at him in rage, reminding him that the guild had no money at all and should not go bankrupt. Bjork sat down next to Imbo, reminding her of the events of 20 years ago, when a man single-handedly stubbornly defended a village that didn't even have dungeons or guilds. Imbo replied that regardless of whether there is a guild or not, she is still alone because nothing has changed in her heart since the day they met. Bjork shouted at the girl, and she blushed and nervously began to say that this was not what the man was thinking. Bjork looked at Imbo with loving eyes when this awkward conversation was suddenly interrupted by Hubo, who decided to report that there was still a lot of food left. Hubo was about to offer to hold a welcome party for Eric when suddenly the kebabs in his hand were cut by a coin crashing into the wall. An irritated Imbo suggested that Bjork talk privately after Eric's party, and the frightened man immediately agreed. Preparations for the party were in full swing. A man in black pants and shoes approached the door. Yvonne turned to the slightly open door with a smile. All 4 looked dissatisfied or surprised when they looked at the newcomer. Bjork did not understand why this man had come. Addis was seeping between 2 door leaves. Bjork looked at the young man dumbfounded. He was so surprised that the fragile Addis was carrying Eric's huge bag on his back. In response, the sweaty Addis, through heavy sighs, could only whisper a plea for help. When the magician fell to the floor and was crushed by the bags, Bjork hurried to the young man. Imbo and Hubo held the luggage together while Addis drank greedily. Having drunk a glass of water in one gulp, the young man exhaled and marveled at how Eric carried it all with such ease. Bjork was excited that Addis brought Eric's bag, and Yvonne added that there were no materials. When Bjork asked if something had happened to Eric, Addis frowned slightly and replied that he didn't know for sure. Suddenly, Imbo screamed for Bjork when she found something in her bag. The stunned girl held a bag in her hands, reporting that all the bags contained money. The bags contained 10 bags of 1000x. Bjork said thoughtfully that even if Eric had sold everything, there was much more here than there should have been. Addis reached into his bosom, saying that Eric asked to give something to Bjork. The man frowned tensely. Addis handed him a red and gold emblem with a design of a dragon-like creature. Examining the object, Bjork asked if the magician knew about the reason for Eric's departure. Addis answered negatively. Eric walked down the dark street with his head down and his hands clenched into fists. Addis added that Eric was very afraid of something. Eric signed the document given by the Inquisitor. The masked man asked if Eric knew what it was. The young man's eyes opened wide. The Inquisitor held in his hands a medallion with the inscription Great Land. Along the center of the medallion were carved lines in the shape of the Earth's continents. Eric was dumbfounded, because he thought that they were all destroyed by 4 heroes 20 years ago. Looking focused on the document, Eric said he didn't know what it was. The Inquisitor believed and said that a hunter with such a level really should not know about this, and that this knowledge does not lead to anything good. The Inquisitor approached the young man writing with a pen on paper. When the masked man mentioned that someone at level 5 might be an alien, Eric froze in horror. The Inquisitor said that in this case, this alien, if he recognizes this little thing, should remember the story he had previously told. Eric, in a rage, smashed the wooden cart with his fist, not paying attention to the people passing by. The young man was upset that nothing good ever happened to him. Eric's attention was drawn to the light. 3 smoking men silently watched him in bewilderment, their faces contorted with displeasure as they picked up the wheel of the broken cart. Hugo, Mbo, and Avon were at a loss. When Hugo angrily shouted that Eric should have spoken to them before leaving, Mbo annoyedly asked what he should have said. Hugo replied that they would have tried to dissuade Eric, but Bjork, looking blankly at the floor, told her to stop. The man concluded that hunters put their lives on the line, and they cannot ask others to take such risks. As Addis was about to leave, Bjork called out to him. While Mbo was seething with anger in the background, the man asked Addis, if anything happened, to tell Eric that they would always be glad to see their porter return. Putting on his hood, Addis promised to do just that with a smile. Bjork was trying to calm down an angry Mbo. Hugo was sitting there kicking himself for being too hard on Eric, and Avon was just standing there. Addis looked back at the 4 with a warm smile. Suddenly his gaze became steely and cold as he came to the conclusion that Eric was jealous. Water poured on Eric as if from a bucket. A thin man missing one tooth told his boss that the young man had woken up. Eric was sitting on a chair and was tied to it. In front of the young man stood a huge muscular man who was unhappy that the hunter had broken the arms and legs of his guys. The boss became angry when 3 subordinates complained behind his back that Eric had also broken their equipment and slept on their territory. Eric apologized for the broken equipment and calmly explained that the men's limbs had broken when they tried to hit the young man, and that he had fallen asleep in one of the abandoned houses. The enraged boss asked the trio if this was true, and they began chatting about how the human body couldn't be stronger than rock, and Eric was clearly using magic. Eric fearlessly suggested that the boss try to hit him, adding that if he refused, he would be the same coward as those 3 idiots said. When the boss asked if this was true, the men began to fawn that they had never said such a thing. Eric replied with a straight face that they were lying. However, the angry boss did not care about his words. He raised his huge fist, aiming for Eric's face. Tears flowed from the boss's eyes due to the pain in his arm, and Eric sighed and thought that this 11-level man was even weaker than Tathiro. Eric frowned, asking what he should do now. Everyone around was speculating whether the young man was a magician, a witcher, or a swordsman, while he looked at the gossipers with hatred. When Eric gathered a huge crowd of people with weapons, he came to the conclusion that nothing good would come from such a large fight. A man with a shovel in his hands warned the head that it was dangerous here, but the old man replied that Eric was just a little dog. The tied-up young man, hearing such an insult addressed to himself, became gloomy, telling the head that he really hated dogs. Eric added that they answer him the same way. The old man grinned nastily and, based on the young man's character, assumed that he was from the Rocky Mountains. When the head ordered Eric to be released, the residents were taken aback and even began to stutter. The old man said that, if he wanted, Eric could grind everyone here into mincemeat, and the young man stood up abruptly, calling out to the old man. Eric asked in surprise how the old man knew about the Rocky Mountains. The head bared his teeth in a grin and invited the young man to work for him to find out the answer to this question. 6 months